I remember the first morning walking out on this woodland area. Obviously, we'd been building the set and the mud and the filth and the junk. I don't think you hadn't seen it yet.
No, I purposely hadn't seen it.
Exactly. So I'd been standing there thinking, when you walked on, it was fairly intimidating, wasn't it? It looked like a First World War battleground.
When I first started coming down the hill, I may have thought this is a little bigger scale, than even my imagination had let me think. However, by the time I got to you, I was really happy. You know what I mean? I was kind of like really comfortable.
I was standing there in the middle of the mud watching you come.
Yeah.
I think Adam was saying, coming, Gov's coming, okay? I said, all right.
Here comes the Gov.
Yeah. And I'm watching him come down, and then we stood in the middle of the battlefield with the Germans on the left and the Roman army on the right, and we were talking about looking at a bird on a twig. I said, let's start off, because it's going to be such a big bastard, let's start off with a big close-up.
Can you remember you said something along the lines of, look, it's hard to ask you this sort of stuff, and sort of, imagination, whatever, you're going to be looking over here, you'll see a bird, and the bird flies up. Yeah. You look up and you say, feels like snow.
Exactly.
Right? And I'm looking up and it's a blue sky, and I'm thinking, this man's mad, But also that first take, staring that imaginary point, having that feeling, and looking up, and you'd actually said to me, this kind of thing is sort of difficult to do. And then one take, and you went, but obviously not for you.
Yeah.
So off we
go. It was bird. I think you were touched and bemused by the bird to forest, which was the threat. Now you had to go from that to the forest, which is threatening, didn't know what was coming out of there, back to you. Then it was about Maximus saying, let's go about my business. Boom. Then he walks out, then familiarizing yourself with the army.
Yeah.
Walking down the line of troops.
Yeah.
Like all those things, isn't it? I think first shots in any movie, it's always nervous making, isn't it? That first shot. Once you get the first shot through, everything's like business, right? It's getting through that first shot is always tricky. So I'm always thinking, is this the right way to do it?
This first section, the German section, I mean, it was the most solid thing we had. The 26 pages or whatever that we shot with this stuff, we really had defined, with our work in November, and then subsequently with other people leading up to actually shooting. We'd got to that thing where we knew the character. We especially knew him in this area. And that thing of connecting with the troops and the different type of leadership. I mean, all the, a lot of really big things about Max were established here,
I always love this thing of connection.
Yeah, and that guy there, right, that bloke I take the bread off, right?
Is he an Aussie?
He's an Aussie.
Yeah.
Out of all the thousands of blokes, the one guy I stopped in front of and did that little exchange with, he said to me at lunchtime, he said, I come from Tasmania or something.
This is the first day, I think. Isn't it the first day? It must be.
Yes, it is. And it's the full metal armor as well.
And everybody's starting to pay attention because everything looks so good. And the armor, I know it's difficult to finally engineer and get it the way you wanted it, because it always is. But it all looked fantastic.
Yeah, but all of this stuff here where, this is all in our conversations about leadership and what, a leader acquires and all that sort of stuff. And it's not that sentinel, it's actually some level of availability.
Because I think that's what we did. We immediately set a standard and a tone for what this film would be, which is about real people, not theatrical people dressed in Roman costumes, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what grabs the audience almost immediately, is they're looking at a real situation, a real battlefront, and whilst you're watching a general walk down between two lines of troops, there's a friendliness, accessibility to him, even to his subaltern, Thomas Arana, right? Where there's a kind of human exchange.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. None of the stuff was that thing where, it's just another guy and he's a, what we try to do is connect everybody, give them a history in a subtext. So every time there's a sentence, the sentence, might be very dry off the page, but if you deliver that with a wry smile, it implies some sort of connectivity and shared experience. I mean, there was two major decisions that you made just prior to this. One was that we had to have a middle act, and the other was the absolute decision that the movie, in fact, was about death.
Yes.
And that's what we were running with. After this, this section was all the narrative we had, and we had some pretty good speeches from Commodus to come up where you were going to place them.
Well, Commodus would show us in the first act the neglect of the father, and then he feels he's betrayed because the father will offer Maximus the temporary consort to the throne to look after Rome until they decide what to do. Mm-hmm. So there you have the betrayal of Commodus, right? Therefore, you have the murder of Marcus Aurelius. Mm-hmm. And then the intended assassination of Maximus. These Germans here were pretty good, actually.
Yeah, mainly Scottish, weren't they?
Yeah.
Mainly.
Scottish hooligans.
Yeah, well, guys that do the sort of thematic get-together recreation stuff, you know.
But it looks pretty savage, doesn't it? Here we've got this ride into the forest where they'll, in present day terms, you'd have walkie-talkies and helicopters at the back here where you're going to come at the enemy from behind. The walkie-talkie in this instance will be a flaming arrow, which will basically say, go ahead. Here's the speech.
3 weeks from now. Yeah, which again, the same thing is you take a block of dialogue and you personalize it, you know.
And if you're writing, what's the words? You're in Elysium.
Yeah, and you're already dead.
You're already dead, yeah. And but that worked very well.
Start off with a gag, you know. It's gallows humor. It's sort of like the best sort of, you know, best leaders, you know, on a set or wherever that I've had in my life are people that when it's really tough, you can have a bit of a giggle, you know.
There's the wolf.
There's the old dog that couldn't act well enough as a wolf, so he lost his gig.
But he was good here for the first until
he was great following the horse.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic the way he stayed right in that shot.
Here's the Beaufort's gun. This is very First World War. I always wondered how on earth do you make flaming arrows? Everyone's got to have a cigarette lighter, so that's why we hacked a trench on the morning and put flame in it, so they could all just dip into it.
You were looking at stuff from the Gulf War at this time too, weren't you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Tracer bullets, I remember you talking about one.
There's the walkie-talkie. There's the Romanesque walkie-talkie. That says stand by, fire. The thing I was always really nervous about was you galloping through trees downhill at this very early juncture, which was you acknowledged as slightly dodgy, very dodgy. And so I was always worried about that, but there was no other way. And I was always suggesting that you had a double, you wouldn't have it. So I just kept my fingers crossed.
No, what you did was you lied to me. You put me in a tent at the edge of the field and you said, I'll be with you in a couple of hours.
Right.
You know, stay flexible, get ready for your go. And then you went and shot it and came back and said, did that shot, don't worry about it, don't need you. Yeah, but there's some great, you know, some nice horse stuff in this nice, really solid military hands and feet, you know.
Yeah. There she is.
Old doggy. The amount of stuff on the internet about that dog still goes on. Every now and then you come across somebody going, I wonder what happened to the dog. I wonder if the 3 DVD set will tell us what happened to the dog. Well, here's what happened to the dog. Dog couldn't act like a wolf. Dog got the chop.
Got the chop. There's the first big plate shot. And this is pretty... You know, sometimes what you haven't got, when you haven't got everything financially, it's a good thing because you have to adapt.
It focuses you, doesn't it? It focuses you.
Absolutely.
I was saying the other day, and you know, basically from the time you start,
look at this.
Essentially, your job is just problem solving, isn't it?
Yeah. Once it begins, that's why
man, do you remember the last section of the gallop, which we'll get to in a minute? Do you remember waiting between shots? We were just coming down that last section. Do you remember when the fire pot behind my horse got tipped over?
Oh yeah.
And you arced up the flames up the trees, straight up my horse's arse, down the hill backwards, spinning. You know, that stick went through my cheek, and that's where Max gets his scar. So 2 lucky accidents gave us scars here. One is them.
Yeah, but that's you there coming down.
Yeah, that's me there coming down there.
Oh.
Yeah. That was just after. I think I've already got the scar by then. That was scary as shit, man.
This is good battle stuff. I think we kind of start to set the standard of new battleground behavior with this sequence.
I remember thinking that you were insane when you're putting your little explosions everywhere. I was thinking, what's all that about?
The earth
and
mortar.
Then when I saw it, I was like, how cool is that?
Sure.
Yeah.
No, we bring you down.
But this is actually Stuart Clark, bang, doing that fall, and they sped it up. You know, they did all the takes at a certain speed, and they sped it up.
I used this shot where you're so you couldn't see a bloody thing.
Yeah, but it was great.
But it was great. Yeah.
But so they ramped it up just before you shot it. So Stuart came down so heavily, he cut his nose open. So that was our first lucky accident.
Love
Second
this
lucky
moment.
accident.
Love this moment.
Yeah.
We nearly kill each other, which is great.
So there's the 2 scars already established.
Oh,
One
yeah.
from Stuart breaking his nose, coming off the falling horse, and the other one from the pine tree branch piercing my cheek. But this stuff was hard. I mean, this is really, you're doing this choreography.
This is the moment here, right there. That moment the moment I knew we really had it. We really got something.
Yeah.
That moment where the...
But remember how we had to, the mathematics of that and going over it. And that's like, it's all well and good to have that on a piece of paper, but how do we actually see all the beats? And that's when I knew that we could really, really work together, because we'd go back to the tent, watch you doing all 5 frames and increasing everything that was happening in all 5 frames.
See here, this is a fantastic moment.
Yeah. But remember the magical thing that we got that time where we all just ended up, there's like about 9 guys at the top of the hill and everybody else was dead and the smoke was drifting across and we just turned and walked together and you were like, oh God, now this is fantastic. And in the middle of it, we got halfway down the hill and this German bloke ran past me, right? I just grabbed him, raised my sword, and he goes, oh, I'm not supposed to die here. Bad luck, son.
There you go.
Yeah,
Roma,
it's not actually
Roma
in
Victor. Right.
Yeah, that's right. Roma Victor. That was. It's not actually in the
Great face.
piece, is it?
Yeah. I thought the extras did an incredible job, didn't they?
Well, that's the thing you get in England, right? With a war film or that sort of background. I've heard Mel say the same thing about Braveheart, and a lot of those German guys were Braveheart guys.
Yeah. Roma Victor.
Yeah, that's that piece we were just talking about. The whole thing of the play acting is part of the culture. So, putting on the uniforms and being in a military precision and stuff,
They're right into it, aren't they? But I was stunned. I was really impressed by just the performances of some of the individuals who really thought it through, And you choose a face thinking that's all I'm going to get as a face, but you got you got something as well. It was really great.
That's also a kind of a bar that you set as well, when they can see that everybody's intensely involved. And when I say they, I mean, I'm talking the crew, I'm talking extras, whatever. If people are intensely involved in doing something and everything is, has that feeling of detail and meticulous attention to it, then
it does make a difference, doesn't it?
Huge difference, man. And remember the crowd in Morocco, they couldn't even speak English, right? But they took up on our energy. So when we turned around, we did that, the thing we did, the 6-man fight in Morocco. They just went with it, man.
Sure.
They gave us every blood-curdling scream we wanted.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
So this is Commodus. This is amazing.
What about these two, though?
Yeah.
What a lot of fun.
Yeah. But
Should we talk about Joaquin's first night on set?
Yeah.
Or was that the 4th?
Oh, no, that was the cocktail party. I mean, the post-battle.
Yeah.
We'll get
to that in a minute.
Joaquin was not happy, Poppy. I think fundamentally didn't really want to be dressed up in period costume, did he?
I think it's kind of 2 things. I think he was actually surprised by the level of his desire to want to do it, right? But kind of in a contemporary, is this cool way, was like wondering, what did he say to you one point? What do you expect me to go out and wave?
Yeah,
Italy, I'm a kid from Florida.
Yeah, exactly. No, so you're an emperor.
Yeah.
This is always a great moment here when
his first night on the set was actually that party night, and once he nailed that, he was flying then.
Yeah.
And I think Janty Yates did a great job with his costumes and spent a lot of personal time with him.
Isn't it great?
On that stuff. So, yeah, I just love watching him fly. Your instinct about him was absolutely bang on, and I reckon all the work he's done since this is about your attention to detail with him and drawing him out. Because as Richard Harris observed at the time, he really is a poet. Joaquin, you just got to give him the opportunity.
But you've got to discover. Because of what is that you still need to have the confidence of everything you're doing, don't you? For yourself.
Yeah.
Every time, every take, you've got to fulfill your own confidence in what I'm about to do is the right thing to do.
Yeah. From
your gut, right? And I think Joaquin is very gut. At the end of the day, most of it's intuition, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's just intuitive, right? And that's what I love, because I'm very intuitive. And so that's why I like to turn on a dime if I suddenly see something better. Like all this, I think just this, taking a sword out of the tree, everyone kneeling, turning, and there's the king, with no pomp and circumstance and bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's the Emperor of Rome, who's basically fundamentally saying, I want you to stay, right? Where do you want to go? You're saying, I want to go home. And his look is already saying, we'll see about that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty good, isn't it?
But I love the relationship with Richard too, though. He was so, when he realized that I was so prepared to be involved, and he just got into it. I mean, I think he gave one of his greatest performances of the last 30 years in this film, because he was just, he loved it, and he loved his scene, the death scene with Commodus. He was really
But isn't a lot of it
enthusiastic about
boredom finally when you just take the job, or when suddenly the film starts to really work and you can feel it really?
Well, fortunately for me, I have a slightly different thing going on, because I don't take the gig unless I really believe it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't have that thing of discovery. I'm always pleased that when something gets achieved that's near your imagination.
I thought the delicacy of everything here, the discomfort, was very tricky. Do you remember the light was going?
Yeah.
We're down a one take at the end where it's actually underexposed, but I thought it's so great. The discomfort of knowing what's going on here, his uncomfortableness, and then Richard's trepidation about how he deals with it.
And he also makes his choice there, which is sort of a wonderful thing for Joaquin, that,
But that was a tricky 3 sides to that scene where the light's dropping. People don't get that. It just goes bam, the light's gone, and you've got to have it.
That was our last shot. That shot down off the horse.
Yep.
was what we saved.
Yeah.
For the end. Yeah, but having all the conversations and working out the my liege, my lord, all that sort of stuff, and people just so willy-nilly with that in movies like this. You've got to be very careful with it. Pick your line, make sure that everybody understands what the pecking order is and what have you. And that, because that language, if it starts changing too much,
it becomes too theatrical. All these post-battle scenes are always tricky. And we shortened this dramatically, but actually there's some pretty good stuff in here.
Well, it's longer now, though, right?
Oh, yeah. Where the general will walk through his dead or his wounded. The first thing after battle is what he'll do. The logic will be he'll walk through here and look to his men.
Mm.
We invented the idea of what this battalion, if you like, and Maximus would do at the end of every battle. He'd have a celebration, which in modern terms you'd argue this is a cocktail party. Blood on your hands.
This is the after party.
After punch-up party, right? But he's got blood on his hands, so he's washing his hands with blood still on him, which I thought this worked great, didn't it?
Yeah.
There's no logic.
But this whole thing too, though, there is also the arrival of Lucilla, the arrival of Commodus, and from our individual point of view, as far as he's concerned, job's done, time to take off, But this is also, it's, this type of battle with swords and such close contact and such distance between, and as you were pointing out, no communication, you wouldn't know who'd survived until you got into the officer's mess and had a bit of a beer and had a look around and said, Well,
that's why you and the sergeant nearly kill each other, because you're both covered in mud. You bump into each other and can turn on each other and kill him before you realize who you just killed. It's a bit like being on isn't it, rugby field?
So you remember, this is the night. So Joaquin came up to you, I think, and he said something on the lines of,
I shouldn't be here.
Right. It's okay. I'm going to buy my own ticket back, and I'll pay you guys back the money for the hotel and everything that you spent so far. Let me go home. I'm in the wrong place. And then later on that turned into, well, if I'm going to play this scene, I feel that I need, somebody off camera abusing me.
Right.
And you went, Russell.
And
then you brought me into this thing, and I listened very patiently to what Joaquin had to say and his worries and all that sort of stuff. And, how he felt that he needed to be abused off camera and all this sort of stuff. This is all just about being nervous about stepping forward and allowing himself to believe in it, because, he obviously was looking forward to it. He's excited, but his excitement was coming out in a different way. And then I came up with the idea of saying to him, if you remember, you're standing in front of the camera, he's right on, he's in frame. And after I listened to what he said, I said, thing is, that's just really bad karma for me. I can't stand on the other side of the camera as an actor and say stuff I wouldn't say to you when the camera's on me. So, why don't you just try acting, you little maggot? And he goes, oh, that was good. Can we go now?
Can we do it again? Let's go. Let's go.
Action. But, you know, I mean, Richard's solution for him, you know, sit him down and talk to him and, you know, do something old-fashioned like give him a drink. It was great because 3 nights later or something, he was completely chilled. And what an asset by the time we got to Malta, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the way that he was, you know, playing with his scenes and just like, you know, just adapting things here and there, but really personalizing it all. The physicality too, I thought was great. She's a wonderful actress, this girl.
Isn't she?
Yeah, man.
Mm.
Fabulous.
And effortless. And I wonder, I think she absolutely
And
lived it,
persistent
didn't she?
too.
Right?
But persistent though as well.
Right.
Had a couple of things she wouldn't let go of, which was great because we, you know, and
But her study was that she was very knowledgeable about this whole particular period.
Mhm.
But what a great natural actress. Yeah.
Yeah.
She got it all and somehow managed to both keep it in period but also contemporize it. So there's an
And
accessibility.
she's only got a very few moments really when you add them up. So she's got to make sure they all hit home,
Sure.
you know.
Where have I come?
I need your help.
Oh, Richard. You know, he died basically the last principal photography day of Master and Commander, the day that I had to deliver the Lord's Prayer. I came out of my trailer like 30 minutes after I got the phone call saying he was dead to do the Lord's Prayer. Look at that.
Let us pretend that you are a loving daughter, and I am a good father.
This is a pleasant fiction, isn't it?
And it was cold. Not sure if that's probably paid for snow, but it was still cold.
Very forced. No, yeah.
It was still nipping.
But
But
you know, we
what? I
were.
love shooting in England this time of the year,
It's great.
right?
Yeah.
Light doesn't come up till 9 in the morning, and you're done by 3.
Yeah. And it looks great.
Perfect.
The light, look, there's no sunshine. It looks beautiful, right?
Now, apparently in one of these shots here, there's a bloke with a pair of jeans on in the background. Got part of a costume and a pair of jeans on or something. I just read that on some list of things in the...
We're walking him right into a real world here because all of this feels very real.
Mm.
See,
Yeah,
we're
There you go.
taking.
There's the guy with jeans. It was Adam. It was Adam Sumner, you little bastard.
Yeah.
It was second assistant, ladies and gentlemen. I'd recognise that squatty walk anywhere.
Sure. And just the idea of how a prince will work out and be physically adept was important. Because
And-
later he's going to go to battle with you, right?
And how Nick Powell was able to bring Joaquin up physically as well.
Oh, yeah.
I remember watching him in the first couple of sessions on horseback and everything. But Joaquin, you know, he's just, it's all confidence with him, you know. I mean, look at the stuff he's done since, you know, movies about fires and everything, you know. Some great performances, man. Wonderful. I loved all that stuff. You remember we had the new rewrite of this? We'd spent like a week perfecting this scene and we sent it to Richard and he said, piss off, I've already learned the other one.
Right.
So we could hardly
So
change
was Ollie, because Richard was good for a bit. Ollie was, again, good for a bit. And then you had to really get it. You had to get it quickly.
Well, he knew what he wanted to do, Richard, you know. He had it like a pace and he was going to take it to a, you know, all his decisions were really sound. Actually, just before this, right, he'd sort of found out that I lived in Australia and I was born in New Zealand, right? And he says, right, so I can yell at you about the Wallabies and talk in hushed tones about the All Blacks. I've got a good night out with one man.
Right.
Sit here, Russell. And off we went. I remember walking through all this stuff, man. It was just the sets, so exciting. I mean, you know, I've had that feeling about film sets since I was a little kid when Mum and Dad were caterers, you know.
Yeah.
I always get a charge when I walk into
To
it.
walk out the set, yeah.
But that stuff, you know, in that
That was really
costume.
special. And all this was on within about 200 yards of the battleground. So the convenience factor of light would end at 4 or 5 o'clock. So we just have a
Flip up there.
yeah, slip up there. That's great.
Yeah. That was cool.
5,000 of my men are out there in the freezing mud. 3,000 of them are bloodied and cleaved. 2,000 will never leave this place. I will not believe that they fought and died for nothing.
And what would you believe?
They fought for you.
But we'd already established who Max was. So even though we didn't know where we were going after this, we knew what we couldn't do in a way, you know what I mean? Because we'd established him as
But
a
the
certain
footprint
guy.
of the whole journey is right here because you're talking about home, you're talking about heaven, and therefore it makes easier to then realize heaven as, in fact, the place where the boy would die, the wife would die, and that's where you were going to go.
His eventual aim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To his life. How will the world speak my name?
There's a lot of mileage in that face, isn't there?
Isn't there?
How old was Richard?
He was like 73 when he died. So.
Was he? Yeah. Well, there's a lot of mileage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing life, from out of control periods of, a dozen Guinness and 2 bottles of vodka a day to not having a drink for 11 years when he realised that, it was getting in the way of him being a good dad.
He would still take a drink here, though, wouldn't he? Now?
Yeah. Oh, no, he'd started again. He said to me that he gave up for 11 years because he realised he was really screwing everything up. And then one day he was back in Limerick and he was walking down the road and he was passing Charlie St. George's pub. And it just occurred to him that he could go in there for a pint of Guinness and then still get home.
And there wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. So he went in, had a pint of Guinness, then walked home
out.
and said to his wife, "Oh, I've just had the best experience." Yeah. Probably one of the things that, is the trap for young players is lessening the range of humanity because you're doing a movie set in a different time period.
Sure. But this bonding really happens here.
Lessening the range of interaction and stuff, being able to joke with each other and stuff. It's the same thing with me talking to you. I mean, you're my superior, but I can still, while we're talking about something serious, we can still have a giggle.
Sure. But that's a very contemporary view as well, and that's what brings period to life, I think.
But see, this is the thing. That's why we've got both things. You see, there's the moments where the boss is allowing you to have a chat, and then there's the moment where you got to go to work, and he's up and he's receiving his orders, and he's back to being a soldier. So that's the thing that keeps it the specificity. I had a whole story in my mind about Maximus being brought into the army at the age of about 8 or 9. Marcus sees him as a young kid, puts him into a group of elite boys that are going to get a little bit of direct training from him. So he's lived his whole life in the military. He is, purely a military man, but at a certain level of success, he was allowed to return home, and that's when he's been married and stuff. But he keeps hoping that call will never come again. But of course, Marcus's ambitions never slowed down, did they?
No. You said that Marcus Aurelius never set foot in Rome for 17 years of his reign, because he spent most of his time in Europe, didn't he?
Yeah.
In Northern Europe.
Yeah.
Could never crack the German front, never managed to put the Germans under the Roman flag.
And Commodus?
Commodus is not a moral man. You have known that since you were young.
We're approaching the end of the time here now, because we knew we were running out of options as to where we're going to do when we got to Morocco, what that was going to be about, because basically the danger about Morocco is it would become a travelogue, right?
You knew instinctively that you couldn't possibly have a 2-act story of this magnitude, so we had to put the 3rd act in.
I need some time, sire.
By sunset.
Yeah, this is great. I
love this scene. I love
scene
playing this scene. Yeah. Yeah, and this is when I'm finding out, I think, that
fetch an old man a blanket.
There's no summer holiday coming up.
Yeah, because it says so much with so little, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They're very economical.
And
tells a whole part.
If you remember too, it was only in conversation with the 3 of us that we actually smoothed off and manufactured this whole interconnected thing where is her son, this Maximus, also the father of her son,
Sure.
Just left that sort of hanging in the air. And the whole relationship thing that you never talk about, you never know the detail of, but we talked about it a lot, that they were, lovers at one point, and then Marcus sent Maximus off, for a further training or to another far-off battlefield.
And she got married off.
Well, initially, she thought that her father was protecting his princess, and then realized with a sort of great deal of bitterness later on that she was actually protecting his soldier. Yeah.
I love this one here where she teases him, actually. And then nearly.
Love it.
This is great here.
Yeah, it's cool. But you can see how they were as kids too, But that's the fun thing you can do with somebody like Connie. You can say, oh, look, we've got, a very short amount of time. Let's just stack this up with, 400 details.
Innuendo.
But I can see why the studio later on, after they were seeing the sort of frisson in these scenes, how they were saying, well, there's obviously got to be a love scene at some point.
Sure. Yeah, I think we were right not to.
I think, bang on not to. And
Right.
it was infuriating to even have those conversations. But, there is a lot going on, but it's for
But
the betterment
but
of
I
the
think
story.
this suffices. This does it. This right here does it. Right.
This gives you the charge straight off. Definitely.
Oh.
When there's a lot of stuff you don't know. And
Which is always better.
it's one of those things that just keeps you attached to the story because at some point in time there's going to be more information about these two. Something else is going to happen. And she got me. You see, there's the big psych out. There's a boxing story that sort of goes with that moment. Yeah, where you sort of like
You always got to suck it into it now.
Yeah, she sort of got me by the simple thing of saying something positive about children to a father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy Flanagan. Yeah, all this stuff was cool, but it's amazing how
We didn't put this in till way back when, to the end, because I was always against the idea of flashback or
Flashing
flash.
back, right.
Yeah, I was always really uncomfortable with that. And then, you don't know till you try it, and there it is. It just works.
But this little thing that we did here, and it's like okay, let's because you said I'll just kneel over there and mumble a little bit, and I was like, no, dude, I've got to write the prayer,
Sure.
so I actually know what I'm saying, and there's like a really cool thing which gives it all the gravitas and the seriousness, and that little thing of kissing the figurine. Look at the thematics we've established already so far with this thing, the smelling of the dirt.
But we never knew the figurine would turn up later.
We never knew.
And out of that
This
came
time.
that great little scene.
Absolutely.
What did you say?
You
You said it's none of your business.
The last beat of the movie, man, but not yet. Yeah.
Yeah, because Djimon was still a passenger here wondering what on earth he was going to be saying.
We didn't.
He didn't know what he was going to be saying.
You would drive me crazy. I tell you, how many times did I ring you during rehearsal and say, look, I'm on my way to the airport. The thing is, we laugh about Joaquin,
Yeah.
but
He was saying.
I was doing it too.
I don't know.
I was a bit more solid by the time he came on the set and was doing
But
it.
ironically, at the end of it all, Djimon got 4 very important, very solid scenes, including the last scene, but not yet,
Yeah.
I'll see you again.
You know where I think that again, it's the connectivity you make with people. You can't just operate by yourself, particularly when you're playing a leadership role, But I solved a big problem for Djimon, or just a momentary problem, whether he remembers this consciously or whether it was a subconscious thing. But the first time I met him, because everybody wants to say his name a different way because of the way it's spelled, and he said to me, Djimon, like Simon. So from then on, every actor I introduced him to, I said, this is Djimon, as in Simon, Djimon Hounsou, right? And he really appreciated it.
Yeah.
Because it took all that bullshit of like Djimon or whatever.
Djimon.
Yeah. So, I used to call him the Chocolate Prince. He thought I was being taking the piss, but I wasn't really. I just thought he was such a cool dude, Yeah. Just got a great heart.
I always try to get into here that if Marcus Aurelius had never knelt, he would not have been murdered. And the son couldn't take it at seeing his father, who he'd never seen or heard apology out of his father in his life before, couldn't take the weakness of the father kneeling and asking for forgiveness. So suddenly there's a moment of repulsion because he's used to the father being the domineering factor.
Decision disappoints you?
The way he realizes he's gone wrong.
You wrote to me once, listing the 41st.
Funny enough, there's one of the best, you're right, one of the best speeches in the film here, talking about the 4 virtues. It was a very nice speech. It was a beautiful speech.
Yeah.
As I read the list, I knew I had none of them.
Yeah, David's early stuff, the Commodus speeches were fabulous. But the things that he discovered, it's funny.
I think it's John Logan did this stuff.
Of this speech?
I think
I know this was definitely developed in London, that speech for sure, just in the week or so before we shot it. But I was just getting around to some of the strange things in Franzoni's original script, like the use of chariots and how one particular chariot was the Ferrari of its time and stuff like
I
that.
thought that was good.
Well, that stuff to me, I know it's real, but it's hell of a hard to sell to a modern audience.
Yeah. Also the idea of
And
merchandising
sponsorship
for
and
athletes.
endorsement. Yeah.
Endorsement.
You know?
But he said, but when you think about it, to an audience, you say, look, how the hell do you think a Roman army, millions of troops, would move with armaments, oil, wine, food, armor, So you must have had factories. You had to. So you had to have massive suppliers of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, there were such a thing as the parallel to what would be classified as endorsement. So a major Roman athlete would be selling,
Remember the
Leone's wine.
Remember the terrible version of the Maximus poster that the other Max came up with? It was like a neo-realistic cartoon. It was like something from an Asterix and Obelix cartoon.
Yeah.
Commodus?
There you go. Doesn't like that. Doesn't like the
Your
vulnerability.
son is my failure as a father.
He got so involved here that he actually fainted just after this. Stood
Wow.
back.
Wow.
Yeah, eyes went up. I thought, Christ, he's going to faint because I'm kneeling down on the left here.
Mm-hmm.
And he started to drop. So I had to shoot forward and catch him because I wanted him to hit the deck. There's always this thing here saying, so we see him strangle him. So no, he's actually hugging him to death. You've got to understand he's just hugging him, and then it gets tighter and tighter, and he won't let go.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. He could never put his hands around the neck of the father.
But also, wasn't that conversation with you and Richard where Richard was like, how much struggle? And I think you were along the lines of, I like this, don't wake me up, you're going to die.
Boom.
When you said to Richard, well, how guilty do you feel? Do you feel like you deserve death or something like that? And he gave you that little sparkle in his eyes, which said, oh, good choice, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. But one of the big things on the internet was, all right, how'd you get into the tent without the dog barking?
See, all these scenes are so still as well. That's what's really great about them. They all work great. Isn't it funny? It's the antithesis of what you think you're going to say. You got to have movement, tracking, action, all that stuff. You don't. These are.
See, look, he's doing his own forensic examination, looking for spittle marks,
Right.
looking at the neck. So he's definitive. When he gets up from that body, he knows that there's been foul play.
Sure.
Smelling him, having a bit of a kiss, but having a bit of a smell too. See the adrenaline and sweat, And you know that I know, don't you, kiddo? But now you got to join into this. What a dangerous game this was.
One of my favorite scenes is.
Yeah.
The
I
dice.
remember on that particular night, it took you quite a while to actually, you wanted to keep us compressed in a certain way. So we actually ended up doing it a couple of different ways, and you changed the shot sequence because you wanted to have the sort of line up, boom, 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 across the room.
Sure.
Keep the tension in it instead of having to cut back.
In one move, he turns and you go to Thomas.
Yeah.
Right, that says everything.
Well, it goes basically from her to Max's back, to Joaquin, to Tomas, out the door, back.
Says
It's
it all.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
She couldn't hit him hard. I said, you got to really punch him. He said, you're going to hit me. You really got to hit me. She said, I can't. So she kind of slaps him. Hail Caesar.
Hail Caesar.
I must talk to the Senate. I need their counsel.
This is fun too. Remember, at this stage here, this is Tommy's only scene. The fact that he came back later on was something we came up with later. Luckily, he was still available. Still had the hairdo.
The Emperor has been slain.
This was scenes that I think you guys carried this off because I was always worried
One
about
of those
such.
tough ones, yeah.
But, it works.
And also good for us here too. Again, we didn't know we were going to be using this particular character, but we took advantage of the thing, and we had that thing, of battlefield connectivity, the nightclub after party, and then that moment there of personalizing what he was doing. So
promise me that you will look after my family?
Your family will meet you in the afterlife.
Neil.
Blessed Father, watch over my wife and son. Bless the tomb that I live only to hold them again. At least give me a clean death. A soldier's death.
And like these routines here, you know, and doing it this way, and, you know, coming up with a thing of asking for a soldier's death and stuff like that. And this timing, you know, that was a really weird feeling, by the way. A metal sword back of my neck. But, you know, having done all that work in Australia with Nick Powell,
Right.
and, you know, so stuff like that.
Sometimes it makes the blade stick.
Remember, we were arguing about that, whether that was funny or not. Or
Yeah. This,
Yes,
oh, yeah, the
it's-
frost sometimes makes the sword
makes it-
stick.
makes
Yeah.
it stick, yeah.
Yeah.
I said, are you sure?
Yeah. And this is great. This is very simple. Doink.
Yep.
I mean, all this is worked out on the spot, basically, isn't it?
Mm.
And then this.
But this is you and your Kurosawa snow thing, you know, using all those different examples. Yeah.
Soldier.
Have you seen that? Yeah. And this move, trying to get this move and stay close enough to the horse.
So it doesn't run you over.
Yeah. Stepping out right at the last minute. Oh. Yeah. But see all the decisions too of, like, you know, doing things like, okay, you can't just get away with that. You know, you get stuck. So now he's got one wing down, you know, he's got a major injury.
I liked about this is you don't even see the blow struck, right? Until it's here. Now he's in serious trouble. And this, the horse
I
kept
remember
dragging
horse,
him. The
he
horse
pulled my
pulled him.
arm out of the socket. He just didn't want it because that horse was used to leading or something, you know. Didn't want to be led. And that's a different horse then.
But this is such. Now we're into California. This shot,
Yeah.
right now we're in California.
Remember that? That was.
We needed a little bit more journey. This is the journey we.
But we
had.
did discuss at the time. You know, we said we need to do X amount of riding shots, and then whoever it was overruled you. We never got to do them. You know, because remember how we calculated how many miles a day
Got to be 2,500 miles from Germany to Spain.
and how many days it would take him, and how many miles he could expect out of the horse, how it'd have to, you know, change. We worked it all out mathematically. It was all cool. And this thing of getting rid of the armor too, breaking him down as we went.
Premonition as well. The idea of premonition, which starts to get fed into the idea of the film in a spiritual, because the film has a very strong spiritual thread, doesn't it?
Amazing. I mean, this is what, a year later or something? Well, it was
Mhm.
6-7 months later.
Yeah, look at that.
Look, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Isn't that amazing? It's Terry Needham sitting there. I said, "Where is he? He's in the trailer. Bah, get him!" And
Let's get
so
the load.
I said, "Get that
Those
blanket
trailers
run
were
off."
miles away, weren't they?
Yeah, and this is where you get premonition, which we tried to pull off into that circle and never quite. Well, it is. This is pretty good actually.
Yeah, this is some weird stuff.
Mhm. Tuscany. This was shot almost immediately at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Amazing landscape. That's real.
It's fantastic.
All I had to do was put in 2 urns.
Yeah.
That's it. So if he hears it.
Yeah, you funny bastard. So this is all like really super dangerous galloping stuff behind a truck. And it's when it's convenient for you, you don't give a stuff if I'm in danger. When you've got all your stuntmen around, it's like, no, you don't need to do that.
There you go.
Yeah, horrific. Definitely winner of the Melbourne Cup. I actually was hammering so hard, not on that galloping shot, but the previous one, that I pulled a groin muscle, and that was at the beginning of the day. So all those other galloping shots, I had a fucking
That's
wretched
a
groin muscle.
pretty good match there, isn't it?
Yep.
Now, all we have of the destroyed villa, remember, was we couldn't afford the villa. So we take the same urns and stick them on the burnt, scorched landscape.
Remember, I said this is going to be like a full snot episode.
Yeah, and you said, what do you want? Full snot, half snot, or I said, full snot and tears.
Yeah,
Cool.
But we got to this point roughly about here, and you said, "Now just stop there." It was kind of like a bit further on. As soon as you can see the feet, I had to stop there in between those two pillars, right? Hit the deck. Yeah, there's basically roughly a mark where it gets shadowy, right? Hit the deck in the silhouette and stay there, you know. And I'm like, but it's my wife. I want to go and kiss her. And you said, I've only got the feet, mate.
There's only the feet.
There's
There's
only
the feet moving.
Well, I said, I'll go up and kiss the feet then.
Yeah. And Gina said, I haven't got ankles that thick, have I? There we go. Yes.
Full snot.
Here it goes. It occurs in a minute. That's really good. Yeah, it's great.
But just, you know, to me, it was like so super important. He traveled all that distance. I mean, he's there to apologize. That was the key thing for me. It was an apology. He's so sorry he didn't make it.
This is really good.
And
Here.
yeah.
That's really cool. In the shorthand now, we
See,
used
I
to
believe
get...
in this stuff. That's why I can, you know, I can believe in him going forward. I can believe in, you know, you just imagine yourself for a moment what it would be like, you know, to feel responsible for those deaths or not being able to defend your family, you know, in that kind of situation. Yeah.
So the shorthand now from the two grave sites to a pair of curly shoes that come in a bit of Arabic is the 2,500 mile leap to North Africa.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, you did the right thing. I mean, there was all the different ideas. Should we see him on a boat? Should we see him, you know, the transport and stuff? But eventually, at the end of the day, you just don't need that.
We go to a drug-induced...
This stuff was weird.
Yeah, drug-induced.
This place was freezing. Yeah, you bastards all standing. All those shots are hilarious because
on the rocks was freezing.
You've got like Arctic, you know, North Face jackets or whatever, and me and Djimon are basically in our underwear.
That was cold. Yeah, but this bad dream, I think, was a great transition to his delirium, to what's happened and what's about to happen.
I dug working with Djimon.
Yeah,
it was great. Always there for you, man. Always completely available.
Yeah, always there.
Yeah. I mean, what a place to be, though. I mean, it looks like the ends of the earth, and that's pretty much where it was. Look at this thing. Unbelievable, man.
We were only in Morocco for about a month, actually.
Yeah, it felt like a lot longer when you think back.
Did you not enjoy it? I enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah, I eventually came to enjoy it. But remember, the thing about this for me, man, is the tension of not knowing exactly what we were going to do.
No.
But also the weird thing of the thing that you're good at and that, you know, over time I've tried to become better at is that thing of like keeping your opinion and keeping it alive in your mind while having conversations with people who disagree with you. And then getting about and doing what it is that you know is the best idea anyway.
What do you think is going to work out?
Yeah. And then, you know, the proof is that when they watch the dailies, they
oh my God, that works. And you say yes. Right.
But that was just tricky all the way through Morocco. And we started to work out a lot of what was going to happen once we got to Malta in Morocco as well. So by the time we got to Malta, we were in a much better position. And basically we had half the film in the can and we, you know, worked out styles of fighting and we knew what we were aiming at.
But they knew by now, they had a pretty good notion what was happening.
Yeah, and they started to relax a bit more.
They started to relax. Yeah. And I think part of the problem is, you know, from my point of view, is trying to, without over-subscribing to it, is trying to describe as vividly as I can how it will be and how it will be put together. But it's very difficult to communicate the kind of shorthand that is involved in editing. You know, it's really hard until then you see it and go, oh, I see, that works. So one can take huge liberties and transitions, particularly today, or particularly if you know what you're doing, with big transitions. When if you're standing on the side saying, this can't work, it's not logical, so, well, it can work, we can actually get from...
Yeah, well, you're dealing with the rock and roll video generation, though, aren't you?
Yeah.
A lot more information can be told and, you know, assumptions can be made.
But that's why I say, still, the value of the storyboard to me is everything, because it helps me to confirm in my mind. That's why I have to frequently draw it, confirm that, yes, it will work from there to there. Even if it's a thumbnail, helps tremendously. This is introducing Oliver and Djimon.
What's your trade?
And Oliver always said to me when I met him in the casting session, he hadn't worked for a bit, I think. In fact,
I thought it was one of the riskiest decisions.
And he said, "You're not going to let me down," and he said, "No. However, my life belongs to me after 5 o'clock." Is what he said. And I said, "Fair enough."
Right.
I'll take 6 for 1,000.
1,000? The Numidian alone is worth 2,000.
These slaves are
It's amazing the way hours have stretched on films. It's absolutely inhuman, most film shoots now.
People have no idea the amount of time you actually spend. And not only that, you finish, then you go back to the hotel, get rid of all the filth, then you're looking at locations or in rushes, then you got to eat, then you got the editing room. And, usually you're doing a 6:45 to 11 o'clock in bed every day. Every day.
Yeah, and 11 in bed if you're lucky.
Yeah, you're lucky.
Yeah. I remember when you showed me the first photographs of this and where they had the fields in front for where they planted, and you needed that for the arena. So you had to pay them a season and a half or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it was interesting working with Oliver, but I never found with Oliver, which is extremely unusual for me because I have an immediate rapport with most actors. There's just a shared understanding, common ground stuff, but I never had it with him.
I'd met Oliver 30 years prior when he was, about to do Women in Love. Remember? Was it Ken Russell?
Great film.
He was about to do that. Hadn't done it at that point, but I met him before that, when he was really young and he was about to do that with Alan Bates. And so he was definitely very much a leading man for a while. And I don't know what happened. He tended to be a bit of a crosspatch, but I think providing you knew exactly what you wanted to do and you'd say, okay, very well. And then you'd plow into it. And the tricky thing is not to change your mind too much.
Good. Red.
Spaniard.
Remember Rolf's first day on the set with the dye dripping?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But, as we were saying before, man, did he grow. Did he grow in stature as an actor?
Rolf would come in, and Rolf was starting to meet me in the lobby of the hotel when I came back, and he said, "Any accidents today? I can always stand in for Russell,
Next.
He did good. Yeah.
Oh, this is one of the ones that you've added back in, this scene here, yeah, which is cool. You had this little bit before, but now you got the extended bit with Rolf.
Put the blood.
Yeah.
We put the blood back in, yeah.
But this is also when he was, he had just, this was just before we left, I think, and he was really confident now. And he'd just be watching, he was watching so much everybody else's performance and learning as he went,
Good.
We need to do something again together, me and John, I reckon.
But Tripoli, you could have done Tripoli, but there wasn't really a part.
I still think that there's a second story to be told.
Oh.
And, and I know he died, right, and all that, but, or, we think he died, or however you want to put it. But just that thing of, however many years later, because Djimon finishes it, but, I'll see you again, but not yet.
No, it kind of calls out for some kind of resolution payoff.
No?
But I can.
Is that the sign of your gods? Well, that not linger them.
This is the dice scene.
This is the first dialogue.
Yeah, the first dialogue.
Today is was it today?
Okay.
God is the color of the God is the color of the reds.
It was all inversions.
Red is the color of the gods. Right.
God, this color is red.
Yes.
It's just anything you could think of. Yeah. But that was the thing, and it was like you're on. That was I think you came in after and said this to me.
Prompt him.
Yeah, but it was also afterwards. You said, "You're a really patient bloke." Because I just take after take. No, that's not actually the line.
Yeah.
Do that again. It was cool.
Red is the color of the gods. You will need their help today.
Something like that.
That was it. Yeah.
See how easy it is.
Yeah. Oh, he kept himself very much to himself, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. But I think because he was afraid of being in a group of people, because being in a group of people signifies having a drink. I mean, I'm the same. If I'm prepping for a film and I don't want to have a drink, the worst thing you can possibly do is go out with your mates.
Yeah, no, the bar beckons the worst thing.
Right. But he was cool until we had that big party. We threw that party to relax everybody.
In Malta.
No, in Morocco. That one we had in Morocco was like on a Sunday night or whatever.
Oh, and
we'd had a really long
relaxed,
day. Yeah, and that was his first indicator to me that he wasn't actually going to stay on the wagon.
That must be hard, though. Very difficult.
500 sesterces, the Numidian and Spaniard team makes it through. At 1,000.
It's wild in here. Do you remember the first time I showed you this fight? I came along and I said, we get to do this, because I changed it all from what was there originally, and then finishes with a decapitation. And you said, no, I'm not going to chop anybody's head off, mate. I'm sorry, I've got enough difficulty with it, narrating and stuff as it is. I can't just go around willy-nilly chopping somebody's head off, And so I said, but let me just show you what the routine is. So I went through and I danced through it all just with my hands, which finished it. And the sword from here, and you saw the rhythm of it and the balletic, qualities of it. And you just turned to Terry Needham and said, Terry, how many heads have I got? Well, this is cool, though, with the dust coming through the rafters.
This was always high tension. We get through this long speech.
Well, see, we were still developing what the character was.
Sure.
So he had to say this speech now without any scenes in front of him of knowing what he was going to be doing after this.
Ultimately, we're all dead men. Sadly, we cannot choose how, but we can decide how we meet that end, in order that we are remembered.
This is where we devised it's going to battle, isn't it? We then have you pick up the dirt.
No, we did that already.
Okay.
You did that way back. It was one of the things you said when I was sitting across from the dog.
Here we go.
Up with it then.
There we go.
But this is like
this is the thematic, isn't it?
Well, it just underlined our fight.
Killing ground.
But also, gave us sort of a modern sports thing too, because that could be chalk or rosin or whatever.
Is that Schofield's son? That guy the poet?
Oh no, the writer. That was the scholar or the.
Yeah, was he Schofield?
I'm not sure, man.
But all these things, it's even with this.
Oh, this isn't the 6 man. This is the.
Yeah, this is
that.
yeah.
This
is the chained together version.
Oh, this first shot coming out, boom, straight out of the gate, smack, head gone.
Bam, bam. Yeah, you got 2 days less. There's probably a day of fight here, wasn't there?
Oh, it was more.
Was it 2 days for this?
Yeah, at least 2 days for this, because then there's all the individual fights that we went and covered in, separately as well.
God, it's very tricky. Yikes.
It was so much fun doing this with Djimon, because it was so unwieldy,
Yeah.
but he was such a good athlete. That we were really able to get the groove going, I don't know if you remember when we had the social games of soccer later on in the shoot. Djimon just he was unbelievable on a soccer field.
Was he?
Unbelievable.
Oh, so he's a good soccer player.
Oh man, he just ripped them apart. He was playing for our team.
Right. Yeah.
So he was playing for the Generals team. We won the comp, but seriously based on one guy. Because every game we played, we knew that he would just go and score 2 or 3 goals. Unbelievable control he had. But, that's why we were able to do this sort of stuff at close quarters and get the rhythms right and stuff,
All these costumes here are great, aren't they? They're totally real. When you use the local culture, the people, I know it's a production designer and the art director and everything, but when you're using also the local artisans to put up Adobe, which is basically what it is, it really looks great, doesn't it?
Yeah, I remember all the long conversations about, that that's the thing with all of this stuff. You've got to know the structures of it, right? You've got to know when you change from a certain tunic to the blue tunic and what's behind it and all that, to making up all the rules of that world.
But this is where the idea is sown here from Maximus that if he's got to get to Rome, doesn't he? Yeah. Now, this is a model I just shot down in Rome. It exists in a museum down there. That was it. We didn't even make that much. I just shot the model in Rome.
Fantastic.
Yeah. The black petals.
Malta was a good place to work. Did you do some stuff recently there?
No. We actually pretty well preset the process, and then they followed in with other films. Troy went in there. Actually, literally on our whole arena, the ground we used, they used that for Troy. But I don't think that was used as well as this. We really dovetail into what was a great useful existing architecture with Arthur's big set pieces, right? And we got away with really.
You got away with a lot. But Arthur was fantastic the way he would do that. Take a line of old sailors' cottages or whatever,
Absolutely.
and the next thing you know, it's part of a palace.
But this is really the Wehrmacht, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, this is Triumph of the Will, isn't it?
He enters Rome like a conquering hero.
See, the thing is, you can take the guys with the experience and stripes on their arms, like these blokes, Derek and everyone, but you give them silly things to say and no latitude to personalize it, then you're going to get a different result.
You're going to get a cardboard character.
Yeah. But, allowing everybody to bend their stuff and allow, because Derek was, searching like everybody else. He didn't know whether he was living or dying at this stage,
But his effortless is perfect for that. Schofield, there's David Schofield. This element here, this just looks real, doesn't it? Yeah. This is where Joaquin was getting into his stride as the bad boy.
Definitely in his groove by now.
He's starting to enjoy it, isn't he?
Yeah. This is quite late in the piece, actually, isn't it, when you shot this? I remember walking on this set. I took my uncles around this set. Whew, he just couldn't believe it, man. I had another cool idea from Joaquin. Just being an annoying little kid.
Annoying him, spinning the metal.
So, it's either... Don't you see, Glenn?
Completely inhabiting it by now.
That's the very problem, isn't it? My father spent all his time at study, at books, learning and philosophy.
Derek told a funny story. He said he was walking down, this Derek Jacobi, on the left there. He was walking down the street in one of those townships, and he saw a sign saying, video of Malta, or, Malta by video or something. So he went in there, he paid his money, and he sat down, and he's watching this sort of shonky old video. And the voiceover comes on, and he goes, "Oh, I recognize that actor. I wonder who it is," So the way he tells the story, he says, "So I was watching the video, and it came to its end, and the credits started rolling. I thought, oh my God, it was me." some job he'd done 20 years before.
Yeah.
See, the little delicate touches with her, like, the additions to the makeup she brought.
Sure. Those little dots.
Research ideas, yeah.
Yeah, she really enjoyed herself, I think.
It's one of those gigs, though, isn't it? I mean, it's, a total mixture of joy and torture.
Yeah, she should have been Helen of Troy. She's more like Helen of Troy, if you know what I mean.
There's a lot of roles that have happened in the last few years she should have done. So unfortunately, I suppose that, when you speak 7 or 9 languages or whatever, you might be intimidating to some people.
I think that's probably
what
what happens, isn't it?
Yeah, you need the capacity, intellectual capacity and emotional capacity of somebody like Connie. It's only going to be a benefit,
Sure.
The way these two started rocking off each other, Fantastic. Again, same thing, where their energies are contemporized in that everything's personal, and there is a different face to wear when you're in public than when you're behind closed doors.
There's an incestuous implication here, which did it happen or did it not happen? Which would be very common then.
Mm-hmm.
From his point of view, is very strong. From her point of view, is very dangerous. That gives a different kind of sexual tension.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the sexuality of just where she actually gives herself to him if he wants, and he can't.
Mm-hmm.
He can't actually take that quantum step, which is really good. So because of that, it's like all those things, I think you pull back on that, it's sexier.
Greatness is a vision.
Exactly. A vision. Do you not see, Lucilla? I will give the people a vision of Rome and they'll love me for it.
Yeah, when he gets at the end where he says, "Am I not merciful?"
Tedious sermonizing of a few dry old men.
Yeah. Oh, do you remember we had this thing going where, that our meetings together were the final arbitration, regardless of what we'd heard from other people. And we were working on some particular thing. You said, "Oh, look, I've got to find a way to chop this stuff down. I'll see you in your trailer at 3 o'clock," or whatever it was, And at that point, we're about to go into the major scenes between these two. And I'd spent so much time with them, and I knew just how passionate they were about specific things. And they weren't silly either, and they knew that we were having those meetings,
Yeah.
So they were kind of fronting me as the leader of the actors, saying, "Come on, we want to make our point." So they were in the trailer when you came at 3 o'clock. You weren't very happy with me, were you?
Yeah.
But it was only fair, though.
No.
The benefit we got out of that is like, because my vibe was, trust me, trust us all. We're all in the same deep, dark pit looking for, how we're going to get out.
Because I often said to Joaquin, "So you didn't enjoy Malta?" He said, "No, I hated it." And he said, "The difference," he said, "you're occupied all day." He said, "Half the time I'm sitting around waiting
Yeah, exactly.
to go on." He said, "I'm going nuts." And
Try not to lose it.
try not to lose it. So he said, "Of course you enjoyed it because you have to. It's in your face all the time."
But you're doing all these things too on the side, you're doing your little intrigues and
Sure.
wondering how these sort of things are going to work, these meetings in the square. I mean, this is you're sort of like, how am I going to get through this without having the peeling grapes scene, or the sort of pseudo orgy sort of thing,
All this stuff, I think, is avoiding those cliche scenes that used to be where everyone's lolling around with the grapes and reclining on chairs.
Yeah.
They must have walked around the streets of Rome. Were there cafes? There are now. We decided to just make the equivalent of what would constitute a cafe or a meeting place. It doesn't have to always be architecturally looking like the bloody Senate. And that's the kind of thing I wanted to avoid all the time. I can't believe there wasn't a street culture.
Well, the buildings are spaced and stuff that implies that there are, right?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, what a lot of people don't realize is that in Rome in those times, they would have as much as a 6-story tenements. Obviously no elevators, but they have staircase and 6 stories, which were slums. It wasn't all beauty. There would be slums. There would be, it's a city of 1 million people. That's a lot of people in one spot. Okay, running this out, saying, let's have the cage because I want to walk on. this is where he's gaining his celebrity.
Yeah, and this is what we used to call the 6-man fight, which is the decapitation story we told a little earlier on.
He's now fully celebrated.
Yeah, but also back into the thing of like,
6 against
that,
1.
that confidence thing of like, bowing to his opponents and, It was actually really difficult with this particular set of guys. They were so good that, they wouldn't give you the time that you needed necessarily to miss them. Quite often the only way you're going to get the blow on is actually by continuing the blow. And we were doing a lot of turning and moving stuff here, which is all based on, martial arts stuff that I did when I was a lot younger, and so this is the two swords,
Yeah. These guys were good, weren't they?
Yeah, they were great. I mean, Nick Powell's guys are great. He's a really good stunt guy. He's hard taskmaster. I just used him on Cinderella Man.
Right.
How many heads have we got, Terry? Bring me another head. But, the thing about Nick is he is really specific. I remember my bet with Terry Needham. He says, I bet you can't throw 3 swords that same place 3 times in a row. I'll bet you $100. And the first 2 went through the gap. So we went to do the 3rd take, and I'm just going to be easy. And he said, you can't use the metal sword on the 3rd take. Mr. Scott has requested that you use the plastic because it's getting dangerous. You're a fibber, Terry.
Yeah.
He just wanted to win his bet. As it was, though, it still went in off. So he wouldn't pay up, but didn't demand payment from me either.
Who organised the bet? Mickey.
Oh, mate, yeah, Mickey. Those guys are incorrigible.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. That thing of, of Nick just working guys to the right place. I mean, imagine, you know what it was like. We had some very strong personalities in the stunt guys on this film.
Very. Very strong personalities on the whole movie. This is a scene that really came off way much more than I thought it was going to.
Yeah, I was a bit worried about it too at the time. But he gave me such a place to be. He only really left me with one place to be. He was kind of like just forcing a particular reaction, which is cool. I don't mind that because it allows me to underplay some things.
It's where he went off on his little madness, his little soliloquy early on, talking about what it's like to hear the crowd, isn't it?
Yeah, it's coming up actually.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
that was pretty good.
About the storm.
That right there, you then clinched it, which is really great. I will show you. I'll win the crowd. That's where he's going off.
50,000 moments.
What's great is he comes across as being truly eccentric.
Willing you to make that killer blow.
That are you not entertained from the last thing? It was hard to work out what we were going to say then. It's a very strange moment to play because he's just killed 6 people, but he's turning around, screaming at the crowd and spitting at them because, they are not as enthusiastic about such efficient killing.
Well, what I found in the film that we had to turn emotionally on a dime. Where you got, the story. It's a bit like Thomas Arana in the German front, who seems to be your lieutenant, your man, and within 8 minutes is already turning and becoming treacherous. So there was no time for what you'd call fully fleshed development. And I thought we were always right on the edge of pulling it off, but in fact we did.
Mm-hmm.
You knew Marcus Aurelius.
Here
So
again.
those little things again, those same things where, okay, so this bloke's telling me now that he knows Marcus Aurelius. He doesn't know that I spent my whole life with this man, so it's sort of, I love that thing of being able to, again, the full extent of human emotion or whatever.
Sure.
I wasn't the best because I killed quickly. I was the best because the crowd loved me.
I was walking along the street one night in Malta, just near my apartment, and I saw Oliver from about 400 meters away coming towards me. And he was kind of like the rolling thunder, and basically anybody
see
who
you?
got, no, he didn't see me.
See,
No, but I was just observing him. But anybody that he got anywhere near him, he was had a few beers on, he was just hitting.
Oh, really? Agnostic.
Walk-
Verbally or literally?
No, literally, physically. Walking across the street and just like lashing out if somebody got near him physically.
Yeah.
Very, very sad.
He latched onto Joaquin, didn't he? In a big way.
Yeah, I was trying with Joaquin to sort of let him know that wasn't such a great idea, But Joaquin and Connie just found him Fascinating. And he was much more gentle with them than he was with me. Remember, that's the beginning of the idea of using the information we found out about, how much money.
Oh, this is the roof scene. Yeah, this is great.
But
This is very
the
nice.
future decoration of the cuirass.
My country.
This is always going to be a hard scene to pull off too. There's a very, very dry dialogue, but it's the weight in between the lines or something on this that make it real. Yeah.
This is about his wife waiting for him.
Yeah.
You believe you'll see them again when you die?
I think so.
Yeah. But also not giving all the information too, just like creating this world that was satisfying to the characters, and the audience would be satisfied that the characters were satisfied.
That's a beautiful scene. Outcome is great. Now that gives
This light,
also
the light towards the end of it, that orange light, that's just all real, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
That's
This
fascinating.
also gives us now a real footpath right through emotionally towards the end and where we're going. And I start to feel very confident here about somehow or another we're going to pull off the idea of afterlife,
Mhm.
because we knew at this point, did we know it or not know at this point
No.
he was going to die?
No. Oh, yes, we did.
We knew Maximus was going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at this point, we didn't know what Djimon was going to do.
No.
At this point, Djimon was dying and Proxima was living.
That's right. And Proxima was going to bury the wooden sword in the arena.
The sword, yeah. Mm. Yeah, but just watching this, it sort of really makes me think, I'd love to do something more with Djimon. Such a cool relationship. And we haven't even really explored it, from a physical point of view, what we could actually athletically achieve,
Sure.
that kind of thing. Fight sequences and what have you. Stuff the other people do with digital effects.
Yeah.
I love the way you made this place, this architectural mess. It's almost like, urban architecture, the shop in New York City.
Oh,
It's just
sure.
big chunks of stuff everywhere.
Yes. They always used to do the city too low. I always thought the scale's too small.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have locks in those days, but
Yeah, Locks is a Spanish Armada thing, isn't it?
sure, quite late.
Mm.
Again, with very little, we're having to tell the story of he's been here before. This is the god of war, is it?
Mm.
They'd heard that they had actually kissed the foot to protect him. And this is where you're all standing trying to look really impressed at this giant building, of course, which wasn't there.
Nice touch with the birds, son.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole mathematics of the Colosseum was fascinating to find out about, wasn't it? The fact that they had those sails that would come over and keep people
Atrium,
shaded.
so.
They would flood the floor of it and put boats in.
They
Incredible.
worked out that actually that's why there was a naval barracks near in Rome, near the this was good, near the Colosseum, because it's to do with the guys that handle the canvas and the ropes.
Mhm.
So those sailors would actually handle the atrium.
Yeah, so there was anybody who was off duty, right? Or
Yeah.
off the water at least. These scenes all ended up being pretty special too. They really held that delicate malevolence or something,
Fascination of innocence. And she catches him.
Scares the hell out of her.
That's scary.
He sleeps so well because he's loved.
Been trying to hook up with Joaquin lately, actually.
Is he here?
It's sort of
Johnny Cash. He just did Johnny Cash.
Yeah, a lot of people talking about it. Well, I mean, it was one of those scripts that wasn't really cooked yet, but he obviously just responded to it.
All my desires are splitting my head.
Funnily enough, he just looked a lot like Johnny Cash in that.
He does,
shot.
doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never really thought of it. He
Was
doesn't-
Cash
his
a big man
eyebrows-
or a small man? I could never.
big bloke.
Big bloke, yeah.
Yeah. He was 6+.
You try and cook in Paranoia here, where we used to have 2 beats before he drank because he was suspicious of his sister, but those things then get missed, so you just shorten them. He'd want her to drink first, so she'd take it and drink first, then give him the drink.
Are the people ready?
I think you need your rest now.
Bizarre, I see in a film the number of times they use this room again and again. This
Yeah, just swatch it around. Yeah,
just
bedrooms,
redress it,
make
redress it,
room for
redress it.
sitting rooms.
Yeah, bedroom, Senate,
Hallway.
Yeah,
Later on, Busy Bee.
sure, yeah. But
Beginning of.
Always.
Always, he says.
Stay with me tonight.
You know I won't.
Then kiss me.
Kiss me, still trying.
Sleep, Brennan.
Close, but no cigar.
Damn. There we take the side of the room, which works great. Just pull a few things into place and redress it.
So I know I met this bloke, Graham Geddes. He's got a shop in Melbourne and a shop in London. And whoever it was that was buying for you, all of those, pretty much most of the busts and the statuary came from him.
Oh, really?
And we sort of became friends over the last few years. So all that odd stuff you see up at the farm, you know, the stuff that's mosaics in the floor of the chapel and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw some more from him.
This is a new scene.
Security
We cut this out. This is interesting. This is Gracchus's house.
This is Lucilla visiting Gracchus at home.
Yeah.
Right.
She comes to talk about what to do with her brother.
Right.
And you have... So we just used a catacomb in the side of the wall and dressed it. It's great, isn't it? Doesn't it look real? We gave Gracchus a chap and then put these mosaics and murals on the wall.
What about that house you were staying in?
Yeah, wasn't it?
Architecture.
Isn't that amazing? Wow, yeah. But I liked Valletta. I thought Valletta was incredible. That's where I was.
Just across the road and down the hill a bit from where Napoleon's.
It was like a miniature Sicily. It was just amazing.
Yeah. Valletta.
But now, if you ever go back to Malta now, you'll be shocked at the change.
I've heard.
Unbelievable.
A lot of building and stuff, you know.
Beautiful, quite good building and quite good waterfront building and quite good hotels. It's become really quite a stopping place for big yachts.
Yeah, well, they were saying at the time that a $1 million investment in Malta real estate-wise would pay off in just a couple of years.
He'd bought the house I was in for $350,000.
Who did?
Yeah.
Who did?
The man who I rented the house from.
Right.
And which, now would be worth God knows how much.
The future pays for it.
This is where she acknowledges that she must kill her brother.
But see, isn't it funny with these things, right? If you work out all the mathematics of each individual character, and sometimes I have these discussions with, like I recently had it with Ron and a couple of scenes in Cinderella Man, where, you flesh the scene out, let me play all of the stuff in total, and then cut that stuff out later on. Because what you get is all the beats that you don't believe if the beats are only just the beats.
Sure, no, I agree.
Is you get them once you've got all the other stuff in place.
Yeah, exactly. If you removed all the fat, you need that fat to get to
the beat,
the moment. Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just going to manufacture it rather than drive.
It's like telling the joke without the preamble.
Yeah, hitting the punchline.
Yeah. That's why.
But in these moments, of course.
But this is a good scene. She'll be pleased that this has gone back in. She was really good here.
He must die.
He must die.
Quintus and the Praetorians would simply seize control for themselves.
No. Cut off the head and the snake cannot strike.
Scylla Gaius is right. Until we can neutralize the Praetorians, we can achieve nothing.
I didn't do any scenes at all with Derek, did I?
Yes, you did. Yeah, you did. You did.
Yes, he came to visit me.
In the prison.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Effortless, Derek. It would be like I'd get one take, and then you don't say anything. Don't say anything if you've got nothing to say. Just say, "Well done. That's terrific. You're going to do something else." Whereas that comes with experience, right? Knowing you've got it, and if it's moving that fast, saying, "Would you want to try it some other way? Let's go down another route. Let's push it further. Let's cross the line," right? And you'd say, no, I got it. Say, fine, I'm happy. Let's move forward. Remember, he's always playing a very contained character, right? I can't remember, was it Gielgud who was alive at this point, or and I learned later that at 90 years old he was, and it was an article came out in the Sunday Times, so it's nothing secret, that his great grandniece or something was a ballet dancer teacher, had done an article about him. I think it's Gielgud. Who was it? It was Gielgud, not Redgrave. It was Gielgud.
Well, Gielgud's granddaughter's a dancer, yeah.
Yeah, and he had sat waiting by the phone for a job. He was 90 years old, waiting, and I had not known that. In fact, at that moment, I thought he was retired, or didn't think he was around. Right. Had I known, would definitely have asked him to come in here.
Now, a lot of folks at home are wondering if those eyebrows are real.
They're real. They're real. I just stare at them, and eventually I said to him, "Are they real?" He said, "Absolutely." Oh boy.
What did you? Well, you had Richard, you had David,
Oliver,
and you had Oliver.
Mm-hmm.
And one day you said to me, "If only I could have got Peter O'Toole, I would have had all 4 horsemen of the apocalypse."
Exactly right. Because Richard used to say, occasionally we'll meet, and Peter and I will meet. He said because of our generation of what you'd call the Hellraisers. He said the irony is, he said, we're the ones who drank the most and smoked the most and raised the most hell, and we're the ones still alive. Mm. So he said we feel it's worth celebrating. We meet once a year and mull over things. Right. Do you remember the Silver and Trigger? Scato.
Nobody ever brought it up.
Scato and Silver and Trigger.
Yeah, well, Scato meaning a mechanical release, thereby a trigger. And
Roy Rogers and the Lone Ranger.
The Lone Ranger, yeah.
High or silver away.
Yeah. And is it Allegro, the Italian word for silver? Whatever it was.
What do you say? You said, what was it? Scato and Trigger and Silver and Trigger.
Yeah, Silver and Trigger. And it's been on in Italy and
no one brought it up.
Here we are.
But they won't
doing the third release of the DVD, finally having a chat about it. Now they'll know that Maximus' 2 horses are Silver and Trigger.
Yes. But they don't connect Roy Rogers and the...
No, in Italy, no.
In the Lone Ranger. They don't hear either.
Yeah, he said he told me a story once, Richard, where he saw O'Toole at some charity function and, hadn't seen him for quite some time. And Peter looked at him and said, "Harris, dear boy, you look magnificent. Look at you. Picture of health, radiant in your strength and masculinity." And Richard leans over and says, "Peter, I look like shit.
Right.
You look like shit. Mm-hmm. We're a pair of old, decrepit, wrinkly, wasted shells." And Peter goes, "Well, yes, boy, but we are supposed to be dead."
This helmet took a lot of settling.
Mucking around, didn't it? He was great, that guy that did my
really?
armor. He really got it together in the end.
Isn't it amazing how the interior of these walls just integrated beautifully with the Colosseum? Because these are actual, with the ramp is actual. Amazing, no?
When we did the big sort of pole routine down there that we didn't use. Oh, that's some other stage, wasn't it? Yeah, just for a run out. Yeah.
Very good. Have you still got this helmet?
I have.
Yeah.
Remember you gave me one on a stand?
Mm.
Well, I actually gave that to a rugby player called David Campese, who scored 101 tests for Australia in 101 test tries. And he swapped it for a World Cup winning jumper and a World Cup winning jumper from Jonah Lomu.
Wow.
Well, on the proviso that if he ever gets sick of it, he's got to give it back. But if you remember, there was, I think, 4 made, and I wore 2, and there was the third one that ended up on that thing that you gave me. So I've got the principal one still.
Worth keeping all that stuff, You think, no, but I now realize how important it is.
Right. when you look back on things.
Oh, absolutely. You can. Oh my God! Why didn't I take? Why didn't I keep this? Why didn't I keep that?
Remember this? I came up with this soul for you, and you said, "Well, God, it's terrible." I said, "Yeah, it may be terrible, but it's logical.
Right.
At least we'll be able to follow it." Has anyone here ever been in the army or whatever?
A lot of this was being made up on the spot.
Poor old Dave. You're at the top of the Colosseum.
I was
You've got no microphone.
I've got 200 feet from him. I couldn't get to him. I just said, "Tell him that was really good. Keep doing it." He was great. He was stuck up there all day by himself doing this stuff.
But the thing was, you could hear what he was saying from the outside of the Colosseum.
The voice.
You really could.
Yeah. But you know, look at that. It's great. The one night I was sitting at home in Hampstead thinking, who the hell am I going to have as the master of ceremonies? And up came the Charge of the Light Brigade. And I always watch it because I think it's one of those great Tony Richard movie. And there's Hemmings. So I'm thinking, I wonder what happened to where's Hemmings? Where is he? So the next day I said, ask if he's around, get him to come in, let's chat. He's going to be about the right age group. And the day after, there he was, turned up, and that's what happened. You know, those guys are great. Not afraid of that size scale either, are they?
This is when I knew we were ready to rock, though, with you and me specifically, because of taking away the ideas, working with the stunt guys, and coming back to you with a completely logical set of tactics that you just went, oh, sweet, cool. Well, now that I know that, I'll just adjust all this stuff around it. And this is that thing, the first time I really got to try it. You know, I mean, in LA Confidential, we did a little bit in the scenes between me and Guy Pearce, where the narrative remains at, you know, the absolute top of your priority list in the action sequences. So when we go into a fight sequence, or when we're, you know, doing the shootout or whatever, you can follow the story completely. And so it's the same with this. And I think that's the difference between a mediocre action film and a great action film, is when you still know what's going on when things start exploding.
Absolutely. But, you know, we always knew it was 10% too short in the arena. Just you measured it out and you knew 10% too short, not of the actual, but actually what it takes for a horse to get up to full flying gallop and then be able to pull down, rein in and stop.
Yeah.
Or turn, just turn. And that's why, unfortunately, you never really see it. But if you watch carefully, the horses never get up to flying gallop in this.
Well, it's even the stuff I was, working with you on horseback. You know, you need 2 laps, but you're always on the turn, so you're never actually going to get to full tit. But this stuff was, you know, going into the Roman shapes.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all logical and work out, you know, and stuff that, you know, we did it in 5 minutes one day. That's why I came back to you with it and said, you know what, you can teach these guys this in 5 minutes. You know. Thing is, if they haven't never done it, they've definitely seen it, because they've been the enemy of Rome, you know.
There's the old Bodicea, knives on the wheels. That's always, when you're doing this, it's like you worry, like Chris saying, the logic of actually laying, you know, that chariot has got to be at least, what, 600 pounds minimum?
More. 80,000 pounds.
Yeah. So if you're lying a ramp down with the shields, how would that turn the chariot? You just can't worry about it. In movies, this is where you can cheat a little.
Thing is, though, what we worked out, it just depends on how locked in they are.
Nasty.
Yeah. Rough stuff.
Yeah.
I love this when it all just starts going to shit.
Blowing. And they said the horses killed. I said, no. No one was hurt.
There's the shot. You can see the hydraulic, the canister, and the blanket falls aside. Right. But also this very simple thing of, if all the guys go for one chariot, you know, 20 blokes, one chariot, they'll win. So then there's one chariot less, and you've got more weapons. So now let's go for the next chariot, you know?
There's a lot of pretty savage inserts, though, which make it, the more inserts you get, without upsetting the narrative, you've got to stay with the story.
And there's that thing of trying to bloody, you know, you ask me to go faster with this thing, but it's like I can't catch the chariot, but the chariot can only go a certain pace. You see, I could overtake the chariot at any time on that horse in particular. That's not me jumping, that's Peter. That was one of our bad days. It was only a foot and a half jump.
Was that you and Branko?
No, that was you and me.
All right.
Look at that, mate. Catch and spin the sword. I told you I'd do it. That was to
He
teach
does.
you. You wouldn't let me do the jump. He said, "Oh, I think we better,
Love this.
just
Yeah,
for
this is
safety."
great. That's a great. It's one of
Yeah.
my favorite shots in the film.
That's all me digging the heels, and that's
Yeah.
when we got a rise out of the horse too, didn't
Right. Yeah.
we? Yeah,
Charge.
that's
Oh,
cool.
there we go.
Into a gap.
Wow, that's great, isn't it? Though.
A nice
Fantastic.
big swing. That middle shot wasn't me, but the actual start and
Yeah.
these two shots are me. So I just don't know why you need.
Reaction.
Great reaction from him.
Oh, yeah. Poor Joaquin saying, "Did you have a good day?" He said, "No, it was bloody boring." He said, "I'm stuck up there in that chair," but he was always there, always on, at the moment it was needed. Very healthy there, Ollie, didn't he? Very healthy and very good form. That's nice. This is great.
Some beautiful horses on this too. That horse master was fantastic. We had the English bloke and then the Spanish guy. The combination was great.
Geordie, no, it wasn't Geordie. No, it was. It's a huge unit though. On this,
I was joking.
we were getting it was very hot here, wasn't it? And the arena was getting up to
Yeah, it was
well over 100. Was it 105?
It was getting pretty hot, all right.
Right. And we had to get round by the end of the light was going over the top at a certain point of the arena, because the arena was, it's not the 5-story high, we did 4-story high arena, but the real Colosseum is 5 high. But we'd lose the light at certain points, so we're always racing against the gunner with the light. But it worked out brilliantly, considering this position came from when I was doing a little movie called White Squall. Quarter mile down from this shot is right now is the tank of Malta.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing White Squall, the tank work in White Squall. And one lunchtime, I walked up here and saw this barracks, this Romanesque barracks that was built in 1802, at the time of Napoleonic Wars. And then we flash cut to, what was it, the year before we did Gladiator. We're trying to plan out how to do it, and I remembered the barracks. And the first thing Arthur Max and I did was go there. I said, "This can be Rome," and that was it. So this was essentially the parade ground of the barracks. And the walls...
But this was a blowhole, wasn't it? Of some sort. In the center of this arena.
It was a blowhole, yeah.
To fill it in.
Mm. So what are we going to stab him with is the arrowhead, the assassination of Commodus. Or even historically accurate here. Commodus historically was believed to have been assassinated by a gladiator.
Mm.
And the possibility was historically the gladiator may have been his father, because his mother had a relationship with a retired, what is it when the gladiator he bought himself out, became legitimate.
That young man, he insists you are Hector reborn. Was it Hercules? Why doesn't the hero reveal himself and tell us all your real name? You do have a name.
My name is Gladiator.
How dare you show your back to me? Slave!
None of this stuff works unless we totally believe in what we're doing.
You have to believe it.
Yeah.
Totally. But
thing is that
isn't that largely the case?
Yeah, but we'd been planning this particular line for a long time, and I had 20 different versions of it. Yeah, and that was when I turned to him and he can blah, blah, blah. And I said, "Look, mate, I can make the Yellow Pages sound good. That's my job, But all the English crew guys that had been with me day in, day out, they got that as simple, self-deprecating humor. But somehow he seems to have taken it.
Badly.
Yes, whatever. A hard moment to pull off for Joaquin.
Big arena as well, isn't it? I mean, I don't mean literally. It's a big stage to be pulling off such personal stuff. I think that's what's really cool.
Yeah, beautiful. The way where he's going with this, where he realizes that the whole crowd is against him. Yeah. And there's a nice little moment there with Tomas. There's nothing in it. There's no dialogue, nothing. Just a little hand thing on the chest. It's like, yeah, my old mate. Yeah. So
there's the man behind you over your right shoulder who became, wasn't he? Did he become Oliver's double? Was that the guy?
oh, I'd have to have a look at the shot again.
Very difficult to control that many crowd. We had about 3,000 in there who would, by the time we would get to them, would get bored, quite understandably.
Up to 5,000 sometimes.
So it was hard to actually generate. And I was always frustrated I could never get into the stands on the tiers to show the mess and filth and food and rubbish that would be up there. It wouldn't be elegant. It would be pretty grim. Think about it. There'd be 50,000 in those stands. Okay, here's the scene. I'll put this back in. This is the guilt and passion, guilt and anger, guilt and fury, love and fury at the same time to the father. So we used the same catacomb here and just redressed it.
Oh, is this when he attacks it with the...
Yeah. That's meant to be Richard Harris, but it did not terribly good bust. But
no, not really.
That's his sword. This is his armor.
You step cutting there? Or is it just the lens?
The lens. There's a redo of the room.
Mm-hmm.
This
Same
is the
room as
room of the Gestapo. I got so used to this, I wouldn't have minded living in there, actually.
I nearly bought that apartment in Malta that I was living in.
Did you really?
Yeah, I really thought about it.
Yeah.
But
you'd never have gone back.
Well, I haven't. So I probably never would have.
No. This is all done design. It's all very Teutonic, which is probably what Germans base a lot of their architecture and uniforms on anyway.
Mm-hmm.
What did you feel when you saw him?
I felt nothing.
He wounded you deeply, didn't he?
No more than I wounded him.
You know, quite frankly, if we didn't have so many strong personalities telling us we were wrong, we never would have got a whole lot of stuff right.
No, exactly. You've got to have something to kick against. Saying, no, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. Or occasionally you're right. You know, that's interesting. Because one of the hardest things to find, actually, where you're functioning both as director and a producer, I think a great producer is actually someone who has what I consider a very strong, powerful overview, an editorial position. I don't mean cutting celluloid.
Right.
I mean story overview, who says...
Perspective.
Yeah, who says to, well, actually watch rushes and say, so-and-so, watch, what do you think? Watch that a little bit. Was it enough or was it too much? That's all. And you said it. So you're going, what does he mean by that? And you listen. There aren't many who can do that. Not many, very few. Very few. This is where we were cobbling. The because we felt a lot of this was very fragile as to how he was going to come back, because it could easily on paper be very traditional, but I think it isn't. The way it really is pulled off is really, really cool, really good.
Came back a couple of times to do this, didn't we?
Yeah.
Get it right.
Yeah, we had a focus problem the first time. This is the closest you would get to getting in the sack with Lucilla.
But that's what we were working at as we were going along the time. This is so much cooler.
Yeah.
And like that whole thing of bringing her into the trap, you know. So now I know where the chains end. So I just gradually go back and she comes forward until I can actually get her.
I wept for them.
Good kisser though, Connie. Could have done with more than one.
To be unable to mourn your father for fear of...
I seem to remember you saying, do you not think we should do a bedroom scene?
A what?
Do you not think we should do a bedroom scene? Impossible. Immoral. What are you talking about?
Wrong guy. Yeah. But even with this too, playing that thing of like, you know.
The thing about Connie is she's got the strength of, I don't mean this to sound at all politically incorrect, but she has the strength of a man. Always. She's as strong. I don't mean physically.
She's got a great centre, yeah.
A great centre, yeah.
Yeah. Well, she has the sort of, you know, an undeniable intellect.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Well, there's the strength.
And doesn't do that thing that some other people do where they subjugate their intellect for you so you feel better, you know, or whatever it is. Or
yeah, I mean, this shouldn't be in, but I'm surprised she's not gone way beyond where she is. Don't you think so? Could have gone further. Is it I don't know what it is. The accent, maybe, but not really. Because her English is almost perfect, isn't it?
Will you meet him?
I thought at one point she'd start directing or something like that.
Well, she probably will.
Yeah. Yeah. But great with minimal. Well, the appearance is minimal effort. It's great control.
I knew him once. A noble man. A man of principle who loved my father. And my father loved him.
Remember where I got the hairdo from? I got the hairdo from a George Michael record cover.
All right. Which one?
Oh, I don't know. It's one you know, well after the larger ones. It was kind of like some sort of comeback record. And he did a video and it was just seemed to suit what we were looking for without going for the sort of, you know,
For the curly comb forward David Frost look.
Yeah, or receded sort of,
Sure.
you know, Friar Tuck sort of vibe.
Yeah.
God, the lady has finished with me.
Great dress, look at that.
No.
Phew.
Oh, here's the execution. This is interesting. Have you ever seen this one?
This is the execution of who?
This is punishment. This is where he finds out that, in fact, everyone knew that you had gotten away,
right.
and no one told him.
Marcus, sire.
These are the two officers.
Right, yeah, I haven't seen this.
They must have known of Maximus's escape when they found the bodies of the 4 men.
I thought it was a barbarian raid. These are good men, sire. Loyal to the Emperor.
Took it out because, you know, when you get to it's drama and it's the dynamics, you're going for the, not so much you're going for the end, you're not so much you're going for the finishing line, but sometimes the dynamics are preset and certain things get in the way. And so even though that was a good scene, very interesting scene, it had nothing to do with the through line, the plot. At that moment, it was a sidetrack. It was a sidetrack going back to what had been in the past. And therefore, when you, at a certain point, you've got to make decisions. So I had to take it out. Just took too long.
Then perhaps it was you who knew. I never told me.
I didn't know.
You didn't know. But a general is always in control,
Didn't know.
always in command,
Should know everything.
isn't he?
He walks him in front of the arrows, you see. So the guys are still standing there with the arrows full drawn.
Well, we've got one pretty slack bowman there.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably why.
Then give the command. Say it. Fire!
This is what the next cut is. This is what it's about. Now we're online on the story, you see. You're suddenly going to deviate for like what amounts to almost 4 minutes off story.
Maximus, you commanded legions, you had many victories. Yes. In Romania, in many countries. General!
What an odd grouping. This is so funny. This is his fun.
Right.
This is his funniest moment. When he spat food on me and Djimon for hours. You remember every now and then he'd choke and we'd end up with little bits of meat all over our faces.
And that was the only joke in the whole film, wasn't it? The only...
Secure your name.
No, there's a couple of smiles. I mean, that's a good gag, yeah.
I could never get up into the stands, but Commodus actually used to celebrate what he believed his unpopularity by throwing bread and food and dates and things and bananas into the crowd to feed them. And as a bit of a gag, occasionally add the odd snake, non-venomous, of course, but in the baskets of bread would be snakes, and they just fling them up into the crowd and create panic. But they had to always just reach it. There's never time. There is never time. It doesn't matter what the budget is. There's never time
To do everything you want.
No, never. And that's why at any stage
But
you've
then
got
again, as you know, though, everything you want is always unreasonable too. Everything that you want is way
as a
hard.
producer, that's what I'm always looking for in a director. Someone who's slightly unreasonable.
Yeah, right.
Who wants, who wants more?
Totally. That's why I explain to people, you want to work with the greediest directors.
Yeah, you want 130% because then if you're lucky, you'll get to 90.
Yeah.
If you go for 100, you're going to get 65.
We're calling him out of the blue. Tommy, I've got some more scenes for you, son.
Right.
You live again.
Yeah. He did good. What's he doing now?
I haven't seen him for a long time.
I thought he.
I had him a job on Martian Commander, but then he didn't do very well in the last meeting, so I didn't get the gig.
But it really got the sense of the Colosseum. It's amazing, really. Scale. We got the scale right, which is really unusual. Normally, they never get the scale.
But the whole mathematics of this, man, it must have been. I mean, I remember hearing people discuss it, but you knew in their voices that they didn't believe that it was possible.
Going to happen. No, when you're doing it, you have to believe. There's a group of about 3 or 4 going to actually put this together that have to believe it's going to happen. And people are always surprised at the scale anyway.
There's a bit of luck that we got this.
Yep.
Marcus Aurelius is dead, Maximus.
Shadows and dust. Shadows and dust, there it was. We're nothing but shadows and dust.
Yeah, this guy Sven, I'd worked with him on Quick and the Dead, so I hadn't seen him for a long time, and I was really actually quite surprised that it was going to be him, given the physicality of it, because I knew he had, hard time walking around. That was way back then.
Oh, really?
When I met him, yeah. But I don't know if you remember, but I had to do something like 14 extra rehearsal days.
Oh, really?
Get the speed of this, yeah. It was just
the old knees had gone.
Well, it wasn't just that too. It was the complications of the moves.
Couldn't remember.
Yeah, couldn't remember them.
Choreography.
Yeah, 136 move sequence that we basically wanted the ability to run in order. So we had to have it all.
Otherwise, somebody gets hurt.
We who are about to die, salute you.
Pretty good mask.
Lovely mask. You did something similar like that with Ed just recently, yeah?
Yeah, Ed Norton's a battle mask is an Abyssinian battle mask, which is beautiful.
Here's one of the areas where the mathematics slightly let us down. The security valve of being able to pull the tigers back with the chain, unless the tiger wants to run towards the guys holding the chain.
Sure, that's real. That's great. That's real how he comes out of the ground there, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we got pretty close a couple of times, then recreated them after that a couple of times.
It's when you get in this point, you think, God, bloody hell, the tiger's not doing what it's got to do.
Remember that day when he whacked me across the head? He did a left-hand move instead of a right-hand move, so I turned straight into that bloody hammer, that axe coming across my front.
Right.
You squish them up a bit. That's the one that's closer. We did actually, that bloke there, though, did stripe him across the arse that time, remember? Hit Sven. We were supposed to do the move slightly slower. But
shocking when you're that close to the tigers to see how big they are, isn't it?
Mate.
They're really big. And how fast they suddenly move. Like a giant kitten. People once said, what's this animated? I said, no, because the tigers get in so close. And we did this 45-degree angle shutter, which makes it even more, if you like, everything is sharp. So it's all it is everything is sharp. So its sense is even more savage, right? Ouch. Feeding him. See him feed him? See him feed him there?
Yeah.
The number of cuts I had on this from the tiger are very few. But this is good. All that stuff with the dummy tiger on top works fine, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
And this is great. How
hard it was for me to get that shot right in the toe. I always felt I should have gone straight up to him and hit him again there.
Decapitated him.
Or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's too threatening.
I've never seen Derek after this film. I just often wonder what he thinks.
Oh, he speaks very highly of it.
Does he? I think he enjoyed himself, didn't he?
Yep.
He had fun.
I sort of think he especially enjoyed that thing that comes with, making a movie that every man and his dog sees. And plus, he's very good in it, obviously. It was funny because, even though we didn't see eye to eye, Sven and I, we did actually bond during the course of doing this. It was just too many days and too much rolling around the dirt to not become mates over it,
Too much heat.
Also, a lot of trust going on in this thing. We're working at a hell of a speed. On some of those moves, some of those turns. So individualized, each person. And that's, that comes from you, man. Setting a level of freedom where people feel that they, it's almost prerequisite to have input.
Have to. We expect it, And I mean, it's actually just feeling that you have the freedom to do that, I suppose, because if you get being continually saying, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, can't do that. The key for me is casting properly. If I cast properly, half my work in that direction is done. You know what I mean? then it becomes fun, you know. But because there's so much else going on.
I'm standing in that square, right? And some bloke said something along the lines of, "We've all got weapons, you've got none. If we started, you're dead," you know? And I'm in Malta, so I just go, "Any Australians here?"
Yeah.
10 guys go, yep. I said, "Well, mate, I'll back us." It was a funny little moment.
Again and again and again. He says here, I was always thinking that the Commodus character should have a degree of sympathy because I always felt he was damaged.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, I think that really comes across.
I found him sympathetic. Even here in his most vicious moment, which is describing something hideous, it's spite more than malice. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They tell me your son
Right here.
squealed like a girl when they nailed him to the cross.
And your wife.
And your wife
Like a
moaned like a whore.
I dug doing the same. And
That was really spooky. That's great. Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
And again. And again.
Time for honoring yourself will soon be at an end. Highness.
But you know what is great is that you guys take it into very personal one-on-one scenes, and then when it's done, it comes back out and goes epic again, and it goes personal again. That's what's really cool. I think that's why we've engaged so many people, you know, because they enjoy the epic, but they love so we're going right back in personally again into this relationship, something we haven't seen since the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I was always worried, will they remember who this is? But then, of course you do.
Yeah.
This on paper, to me, was like,
It's tricky.
yeah, dodgy.
Yeah.
But I think what happens is separation, geography, choreography, crowd being separated, and you two being pushed together, and the way you carry it off really makes it all work. Getting to this little present, this gift,
which brings us all the way back around to where we were.
Full circle, yeah.
I also like that thing of, here's this supposedly powerful man, but he's just a prisoner. He's still just a prisoner, and even the more power he gets, the more he's worth to them to keep him in prison.
This is one of the very successful scenes.
See, again, it's that same thing, keeping it natural, responding as men, not as icons or whatever.
Family in the afterlife.
Oh, yes.
What do you say to them?
To my boy.
I remember the first conversation. You do realize I'm overweight right now, and haircut's a bit odd, and da-da-da-da-da. So I always thought that was charming.
No hair, actually.
I thought that was charming. And we drifted into the idea of the broad strokes of the story, because at that moment we were still in flux in terms of, we knew what the 3 acts were, and we were trying to get it written.
Yeah, and then we were talking over the phone, and then we got together in London nightly till very late, discussing what we knew we couldn't do. And that was when you gave me such reassuring sentences as,
No
you don't have to worry about that, mate. I can guarantee you now there won't be anybody peeling grapes in my movie.
Exactly right.
And I was supposed to understand the resonance of that.
Yeah.
No. I will not make a martyr of him. When I went to the Senate today, I purposely told them about using the grain reserves to pay for the games.
How many cameras did you have? What was the big days? 5 was relatively standard in battle.
Yeah.
Did we ever go beyond 5?
No, not really. I was 5 or 6. I suddenly realized on Black Hawk it was 11.
Wow.
11 cameras all flying at once. You're actually shooting at each other and you just hide each other. So you're hiding. But 5 cameras is tricky anyway. I find a lot of it is to do with saving the actor. Because, there's nothing worse than having done it all from one direction, where you're off camera and you've done it. It doesn't matter how you've been saving yourself.
Yep.
You've been giving for the person on camera, and in giving, you've expended it.
Right.
And then you got to drag it out again. It's like, and I realized that fairly early on and thought that 2 cameras were essential. And with a little bit of thought on lighting, you could take it, do it both ways immediately. So if there's a mistake and you pick it up, you've got it all captured, because sometimes mistakes are great, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Mistakes make it natural. And also I find that don't rehearse too much. Providing you know where you're headed, right? We all know where we're headed, then let it fly and try and capture it, right? Because then it's at its most visceral, because the adrenaline's still flying a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's when the adrenaline starts to get dull.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you with multicam stuff in as many situations as possible. And you are right, it really doesn't take that much.
No, a little bit of thought.
No.
And honestly, with the grading you can do now, you can balance it out. It really doesn't matter a damn. Somebody say, well, the light's coming from the right. I don't give a shit. What you gain is you gain much more ground, much faster. Loved all these interior cafes.
Mm-hmm. I love that foot. I always want to take that foot home, put it somewhere on the farm.
Yeah, that and the landscape would be brilliant.
Didn't it end up in isn't there a theme park somewhere? Or
No, it was only plaster. It never last.
Right.
Where
they did have plans to have some sort of theme park or something at that stage.
Right. Well, what I proposed to the authorities in Malta to say, look, we'll build this. We're building this incredible place, which we can leave as a permanent fixture if you want to take it on. But you got to tell me now, because then I'll put in proper foundations and I'll cap the walls. And at the end of it, we're walking away. It's your responsibility. And they wouldn't do it until it was done. And then they try to come back and say, well, can we keep it? And I said, you can keep it, but it'll be down the first winter. See, all that stonework is molding, but it's fiberglass, so it'll last. If you cap it and seal it, it'll last.
Leave us.
Again, scenes that could be cliches aren't.
I remember the great blanket debate.
Yeah.
What color blanket? Why blanket?
Yeah.
All that. I think there's something in this moment. Oh, that's the pugilist behind me. What's his name? Thomas something or other, that sculptor that did those. I've got that now,
Really?
I've got the full-size version of it in marble.
Wow.
And the thing for me with the blanket was sort of like regaining some of his regal stature or something,
Mm-hmm.
It was like time to move on from just the blue tunic in these political sense.
By nightfall of the second day, I shall return at the head of 5,000 men.
But the legions all have new commanders, loyal to Commodus.
Let my men see me alive, and you shall see where their loyalties lie.
Yeah, the version I've got is much more full of detail.
Yeah.
Not larger.
In 100 years, I will not trade one dictatorship for another.
But actually trying to construct these classical situations and classical stories to bring it round to the right ending. Remember that a lot of this was being rewritten at the time to make this and get us to that point in the story. How do we work it so that this man who was trapped inside, very powerful but nevertheless inside a prison, can be released and thereby give, if you like, freedom to Rome, right? So how does that work out? On paper, that sounds incredibly...
I remember when we came up with the idea and we were like, we're going to put into the mind of the audience the image of Max at the head of 50,000 mounted troops or something coming into town, and then somehow satisfy them without ever fulfilling that because we can't afford it.
Exactly. Because if you remember, you were going to go from here, escape, down a water chute, into the river, Tiber,
Something like that.
swim down the Tiber, come up opposite your army on the banks of the Tiber,
Ostia, yeah.
in Ostia, walk forward. They'll think, my God, look who it is. You'll come back in with the army and you will take back Rome.
Right.
Too big. Couldn't afford it. So we go, but again, because we can't afford it, we are narrowed down to
using characters.
Yeah.
It's that Baz Luhrmann thing. It says, you know, when he gives a speech to directors, young directors, he says, I can make you the $200 million version of Titanic, or I can make you the $50 version of Titanic. It's up to you. For the $50 version, I just need one good actor.
Sure. Yeah. All the characters in this were great. He's the spy. These are the two guys who work for... You never see him again, but you know what they are.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the companion of Gracchus. Take the money.
Back in Rome. Oh, I like this, but you really captured the stillness.
We're making a lot of this stuff up now. So there's Gracchus's boyfriend. Going to take the message, going to be followed. There's the spy in the background.
There's the mint julep.
Yes. I try to make the city a place I'd like to live with all its little details. I've still got those glasses. Aren't those glasses great? Very nice piece of score here. We hardly hear the score here. In fact, I think this is one of Hans's better scores, actually. Oh, this is great.
This is the day I lost $2,000 throwing oranges from this balcony into a basket that was about 60, 70 meters away. And Terry and we were just probably had too much time on our hands.
Isn't this a great room? This is a room that was actually an existing room in one of the ruins of the barracks, and Arthur came in and just put murals on the walls. But it just feels absolutely real, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and this is before Ollie died, so we were still at this stage. Well, obviously it was before he died. Oopsie. But it was at this stage that we were trying to work out. This is the beginning of the thing that, you know, man, Proxima is so without redeeming features. How can we finish the movie on Proxima? This is when the conversations about what the other options would be. Because it never, you know, remember, I mean, we just started discussing that way back. You know, somehow it felt right script-wise. It felt right from a Hollywood tradition point of view, but it just didn't feel right with our characters.
We managed to make this very domestic, didn't we? And that's why it feels real.
I think that's absolutely right. That
Even
same
if its
thing.
grandness is domestic. Which
Yeah, I love the way he chucks away the food, the seed. Then
Sure is.
and there's the spy. That's a new bit, isn't it?
These are the two guys off the street.
Adding him back in.
Yeah.
That will-
So they're there to report. And the even those guys are pretty good, aren't they? Look pretty dangerous.
And if people have enjoyed this movie in this shorter form, they're going to like the hell out of this.
This is where there's an after. Oh, this is great. This is where David's bad behavior. This is new.
Oh, this is new.
Yeah.
Right.
They're laughing at Commodus. This brings you to this. This is the near seduction scene in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Where have you been? I sent for you.
Please, brother. What's troubling you?
Does Gracchus have a new lover?
I don't know.
I thought you'd seen him. He infects everyone like a putrid fever. For the health of Rome, the Senate must be bled. And he will bleed too. Very soon.
But not tonight.
She knows that she's getting quite vulnerable now. He suspects something. But this is actually in picture form is spectacular.
Yeah, it is, man. The composition's gorgeous.
Yeah.
You just worked with Matheson on Kingdom of Heaven?
John Matheson, yeah. Yeah.
The lighting and the shafts coming through the other windows.
Oh.
Gives you all this movement and glisten.
Mm-hmm. But part of it is keeping justification of movement, isn't it? If you can move, fine. Sometimes there's no need to move, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's organic. I like working it out on a big set because you seeing how the actor's evolving mentally is saying, I can't make that move. Okay, why not? Can't you make the move? It doesn't feel right. And so if it doesn't feel right, it's false. So everything is justified. In a good way, right?
Mm-hmm. How didn't he win an Academy Award for this performance? It's a gorgeous piece.
I think so. I think a few things were missed on this, frankly. I think Arthur should have got the art direction.
Mm-hmm.
Did Hans get music?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he should have. Bloody great score.
Yeah, but I mean, Lisa's contribution to the music
was
pretty huge.
Yeah.
You know, and what was it? It was like a minute underneath what the mark was for her to get a
he included it, actually.
He tried to.
Yeah. He's very generous, Hans.
Yeah, but there's a rule. It's an actual minute rule, and she came like a minute 30 or something underneath.
Because her experience on that, she loved doing the movie. She was serious talent. There you go. That's the closest thing we get to sexuality.
Oh, we've got a big kiss coming soon.
Can't do it. Can't get that.
Come on.
Can't do it.
Come on, you little chocolate prince.
Can't do it. Which is perfect. This is great. So now he's a little brother, a little. So there's the vulnerability, and people kept saying, well, "He's such a dark, such a bad guy." I said, "No, he's not.
Yeah.
Look at this here.
It's unbelievable. You know, some of the reviews that he got. You know, and that people talk about his voice, and he didn't have the carriage or whatever for a Roman leader. It's like that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I think the modulation in his voice is beautiful. Where he uses it to build, you know. I mean, he's playing an omnipotent person who's massively vulnerable. It's great.
Get out. Move. Congratulations, General.
Oliver looks so hale, doesn't he? Hearty, strong.
Yeah.
Huh? Amazing. I guess just a valve blew.
We daren't wait any longer. We must leave tonight.
Thing is, the way Oliver went was something that was coming for a long time. It's only going to take one day of no constraint and no possible, internal restraint.
As someone said, he said, Ollie would be furious he didn't complete the movie.
You have nothing to pay for. You love your son. You're strong for him.
See, I think this is very delicately pulled off. It's really great.
I'm tired of being strong.
Again, a specific and yet innuendo.
Mm-hmm.
Because your father chose me.
So you're talking about huge themes here. Your father chose me. Wow. I mean, these are giant themes, but they're pulled off brilliantly.
A long time ago.
Tricky stuff on paper.
Was I very
different? We went round and round with this for a long time. This is our concession to the love scene.
But it's engaging, isn't it? That's why we're going silent, because we're actually listening. We're actually getting involved in the movie, which actually is the best sign. You suddenly go totally silent because you're actually engaged in the movie. That's the best sign you can have.
We're supposed to be talking through this.
We should be falling asleep by now, but I'm fully engaged.
Look out, folks. Drum roll. Add a drum roll.
Yeah.
There you go. There it is, folks. They've connected. You've waited all this time. They've had all this death. And I can tell you now, that was a bloody nice kiss, ladies and gentlemen. And I knew she was enjoying it because I got the old double hands on the neck. That wasn't part of the scripted movement. Mutual appreciation.
this is something we sought after, saying, how does he find out? And I think this works great.
This is beautiful, man. The busy bee scene is always one of my favorite moments. That reveal, so innocent, that just hits him between the eyes.
Yeah.
Not a legionnaire.
I'm a gladiator.
A gladiator? Gladiators only fight in the games. Would you rather be a great Roman warrior like Julius Caesar?
Maximus, the savior of Rome.
Whoops.
Ooh.
Savior of Rome.
Kid's very good here, isn't he?
Yeah.
The boy is
Spencer's a little trooper.
He's a real, Spencer's a real trooper, and is a real actor. Had it all very much worked out in his mind. And
He'd be 17 or so now, wouldn't he?
yeah,
Be a man.
he'll appear suddenly. Something. I think he's still.
If he still wants to do it, though, that's the thing. That's the key. Sometimes, as you get a little older, you kind of realize there's a lot of
tough stuff out.
tough stuff to deal with, man. A lot of rejection, and and it's a lot easier doing other things.
Well, this is Bill's scene, the busy little bee.
Hmm.
Very strangely, we do very odd things in the name of love.
I think it's silly.
So do I. So do I.
I don't like to see things too early.
No,
I like to wait.
no. You
see
do
what
it,
the
yeah.
director's really at.
It's always the agony when I'm having to go through ADR, and the actor's having to see something grainy and a bit unassisted, nothing with it, and he's actually having to do ADR. I hate that. So what I actually do to an ADR person is only give them what they need to see. I don't want them to see the whole scene. And they say, "Can I just see a little bit? Can I say no? I want you to see it the way it's meant to be." You know what I mean?
Seeing it for the first time was pretty amazing.
Well, that's why I said it then, because you're seeing prime print and just finished mix. So you're seeing him married. It was unmarried. It was like, but double head, but absolutely super finished grade, finished mix. And that's what is the best way of seeing it.
But the Emperor Claudius knew that they were up to something. He knew they were busy little bees.
This is great.
Hmm.
One night he sat down.
The thing when you're working with people with this sort of talent, though, Joaquin and Connie,
And he said,
very close. They were each other's own worst enemy, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
"For I shall strike down those dearest to you,
I really enjoyed each other's company.
as I paid in their blood." When the Emperor was
See, more and more, you don't get the answer. You have to understand what's going on. And somebody actually said, but can we actually have it where he says, "I know what you're doing"? I'm saying, but he is saying, "I know what you're doing."
And she's responding
Yeah, so
exactly to the threat. He's sitting there with his arm around the child. I mean, that's kind of like the source of most of our frustration
Today,
was-
it's getting worse in terms of.
Yeah, but back when we were doing it, was that, what you're asking for, the resonance of what we've done is just what you're asking for.
Yeah.
It's just not ABC like you're asking for
But
it.
it's very powerful because it's implied. It's very powerful implication.
Well, it's could the audience make their decision about it. You're not telling them what to decide.
I always thought this guy's face looked great in connection with the coral snake.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, that's his thing. He's a snake meister by assassination.
Still got that ring too, by the way. Remember, Connie, actually, the ring that we used is a present that Connie gave me.
Right.
It's a real ring from the time with the eagle symbol on it. Oh, I don't remember seeing that bit.
They burn the people, the theatre people who
the
are
theatre people,
taking
taking the Mickey out of the Emperor.
Yep. It's all little stuff, but actually it builds up to something pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's Oliver. This is not Oliver now. That's
Ollie, yeah.
That's Ollie, but it's taking his head from somewhere else.
There's a great thing in one of the extras, I think, on this disc where Pietro's talking about he was there for this moment, and when we were doing it, and I said to you, well, let's expand it. If we're going to do it, let's have a little bit of a head nod and move in a bit closer and a reply, and then, are you in danger of becoming a good man?
Sure. See, this is all digital.
composite.
Yeah, composite. Ah. You'd never know, wouldn't you? It's pretty amazing. Now we go to a very traditional punch-up, but again, I was uncomfortable about it. But you had to be done. You have to make it and get through it quickly.
Yeah.
But it was worked very well.
But also this moment where the gladiators all gather together, and we have the strength and honor moment.
Yeah, we shot this in a night. Remember,
Yep.
we had to do it in 1
hours. This interior. Yeah, that was cool. I remember it was much longer to get to a kind of a series of points, but of course, then the plot changed or whatever, so we've cut it down. Poor old Rolf. He had to go in this. Are you sure you want to kill me, Ridley?
Yes.
But later, I could help Maximus again.
Yeah. Oh, he went underground here to the actual, probably were, these catacombs probably took gunpowder storage to make it was very dry. So you're about to go underground.
Remember running down here, running down this thing, and we get another lucky accident. The faster I went, if I rocked a little bit, I get the ray of sparks. So my hand's actually vibrating the whole time to get those sparks to keep coming out.
Great. Yeah, look at that. It's great.
Yeah.
Fab.
We must have done that 20 times to get that flame
right.
right in the dead center.
And here's the double. There's Ollie. Great. Series
Beautiful
of
staircase.
dense little, corners, and it all builds up to something.
Back to the double again.
Yeah.
And that's back
Shadows and dust. Bang. Brutus.
I mean, we were talking about this. Man, isn't it going to be cool when, he gets all his gear back on?
Yeah.
Oh, Rolfie, stay with it, mate. Stay with it. Breathe deep. Oh, it's another cold night.
This is a great location. This is actually the walls in Malta.
Yeah, where were we?
Phenomenal place. These are the actual castle walls. He didn't allow for that getting bouncing off the tree.
He didn't like that bit.
That's great, isn't it? Look at that. Wow.
What do you
this.
do here?
That's amazing, yeah.
And I think we were sort of saying, is he going to draw his sword? It's like, what's the point? It's like he's looking for an opening and he'll go for it if he can see one, but he can't see one.
It's done.
I love this city. I love being in Rome.
What of my nephew? What of his mother? Should they share her love?
There's little tiny choices that he's made, which are about personal grooming, which divide you from official moments to private moments. It's very small, but it increases his vulnerability, adds to the reality of the situation.
He adds a teeny little bit of a dandified view with the way the hair's done. He touches on being a little bit foppish, right?
In a manner that displeases me, he will die.
And that goes with the dialogue, with the tone of the voice. That's why I was very happy with the tone of the voice.
To be noble and takes her own life.
But Joaquin's very self-critical, isn't he?
And as for you,
This is great. Love this.
you will love me.
I thought it was great fun working with these two.
You will provide me with a veil of pure blood.
Oh, lucky you didn't throw them out of the trailer at 3:00 that afternoon.
No, I absolutely took on board where you guys were coming from and your frustration.
Well, that's where all of this stuff was strengthened. Is that when you zeroed in on it, and you were coming down to what goes, what stays, you took into account everything that they had discovered about their characters and let them keep the things that they, were driving on as in really important stuff, And some of it, this is beautiful. It's just so well done. So many colors.
There's great cut there as well with Hans's pushing through with the music. There's great, and then to this.
Remember what you used for rose petals? Those cardboard poppies.
Oh yeah.
You got hundreds of boxes of cardboard poppies.
Yeah, this dynamic here was really, really working now. Dramatically works brilliantly well. Yeah.
In 100 different ways we could have done this thing.
Oh my God, this could have been so corny, but I think it really works very well.
Yeah, but I like the thing we were talking about. Put him in a position of absolute vulnerability. There's nothing he can do.
No, I was always had in mind. This is like a mafia scene. It's one brother to another, blood brothers. But it's like a Godfather.
And when I saw him come out in the all-white gear, I said the chocolate prince has gone vanilla. Come on, ice cream boy, let's go and have a fight.
We took this armor off a statue of in Rome, which is all cream. It's cream marble. It was absolutely spectacular, and that's what it was. We decided to dress him in, I like vanilla.
Became a gladiator.
Limestone armor.
Gladiator defied an emperor. Striking story. Now that people want to know how the story ends, only a famous death will do. What could be more glorious than to challenge the emperor himself in the great arena?
You would fight me.
Why not? Do you think I'm afraid?
I think you have been afraid all your life.
Unlike Maximus the Invincible?
Once you get on a groove, you don't need to rehearse them when you've discussed them.
Better to do it, isn't it?
Because he's going to come with something strong, and your attitude's going to be in reply.
You could kill a scene like this by over-rehearsal. The moment when they're ready is when you should have your cameras turning, right? There's still a lot of heat.
His own death.
Nice dramatic choices, where you have no idea he's going to do that.
That's wonderful, because it puts us in a position from now where, he's dead.
Right.
It's just going to take X amount of time.
But you see, historically, that also puts us in. Commodus was meant to have killed 350 animals in the arena and probably slaughtered 100 gladiators, but he would never have gone in there if the gladiator hadn't been totally vulnerable.
Yeah.
Probably. He wouldn't have stood a chance. So right there, by the wounding of a gladiator, it kind of places this historical accuracy as, reasonably good, reasonably well placed. Like the guys coming out the ground. That cool
idea.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing that, people might not understand. That whole catacombs of the Colosseum was a series of holding cells, preparation areas. There was, lifts into the center, like, with
dormitories.
Yeah, dormitories for sleeping in, obviously animal quarters and stuff. But, they had the functional ability to flood that floor with water and then drain it again.
Crocodiles and sharks.
It was funny. The only person in this film that I did any damage to, because usually the stunt guys were damaging me, was in this, like, it was the first or second take, and he came up instead of going down or something, and I chopped right across his knuckles, right across his sword hand knuckles. So he finished the rest of the fight with chopped knuckles, which I thought was incredibly cool of him, because this is a good routine and took quite a bit of effort from him.
Normally ending a big movie like this with a one-on-one fight with his two swords is it enough? But I think this works so great, and you got the gun loaded in so many different directions, like you're dying, standing and dying, fighting and dying. And so it is enough, you know.
Nice little things too, like that leg flip and the, you know, cutting the back of his leg, so he's got an arm and now he's got one leg as well. And that's, I mean, you've slowed that down, so
Yeah.
it's massively faster than that, and that was cool too.
Yeah.
How he
Great,
decided.
you see the sword drop.
Quintus, sword! Give me your sword!
Yeah.
Sword, give me a sword! Sheathe your sword! Sheathe your sword!
This goes all the way back, those early conversations in November. This is where we have to get to. He was really easy to do fight sequence with, Joaquin. Very, you know, athletic, you know, and smart. I mean, that triple punch, I love that.
On his shoulder. I love this now. It's great. Wanted to do this slowly.
I said, whack, you know, hit me as much as you can as it's coming around. You wouldn't be still. Don't be still. Just keep hitting me as much as you can.
He knows he's going to die. There we go.
By his own hand,
cool.
no doubt.
Oh. Excellent. Now we really have him.
How much debate do we go on about this too? What actually happens? But I remember you calling me. I was back in Australia at that stage, so it was probably early December of '98, and you said, "Mate, I've thought about it. I think it's going to be a lot easier if you die. It's got somewhere to go to." Of course, it's cost us hundreds of millions of dollars, really. Great idea, mate.
But this is good.
On Gladiator
the
10,
reaction of home. There's the reaction of home right there. This is the moment where I love this moment. Here we go. He reaches for the door. Now I knew we were absolutely on very, very, very solid ground. Because all this on paper was very tenuous, wasn't it?
But I love the way he resolved X amount, and we brought in all these echoes, and he's doing it to Quintus in the same way he would have talked to him on the battlefield, you know? So all of that other middle stuff is forgiven, type of thing. Instead of, and you notice that the cuirass now has all the symbols of his life: the tree, his son and his wife, Trigger and Silver, the horses.
Mm.
Oh, God, that was hot that day.
Yeah. I use the same devices passing through that you nearly passed when you were going from Spain to Africa. You're nearly dying. You were dying, actually. It wasn't hallucination.
Right.
I always said to her, I said, is go to them enough for you? She says, absolutely, that's all I needed. So that was it. It works, doesn't it?
All those sort of, like you say, you call them happy accidents or whatever whatever they are. But, the fact that we end the movie with Djimon and Lucilla rather than where we started, which is when all the cynical people won, we actually ended up being in a situation where you could feel good about the future or something, Now, see, that's the way the frame was supposed to stay. And then when there's a side shot coming up, I think.
Oh, we added something here.
The frame was
we had her going to her brother's body, but I don't think I did that as well. She went from
one to the other.
Yeah, which I thought was the right thing to do. And then they were very confused about that. I said, how could they do it? I said, but it's a brother.
You see how the frame widened out too, and now you're coming back in again. There's just that little bit. You can see that there's a pillow under my head of stand because I've been lying there for a long time in the armor and my head was getting too heavy.
We believed it once.
She should be playing Joan of Arc or something too. She should be doing.
She pulled these things off which are really tricky. That could be so ordinary.
That's the thing, though. I mean, most of the time by now in a movie like this, what you'd have left is taking the piss.
I know, but now she's going to walk. She should walk to her brother. I've always wanted to walk to her brother.
I wasn't there then. I said, well, can I go home? He said, oh, yeah, we only want it from the top anyway. So I think that's Stuart being carried out. Now, see, this is, I think, is the key. If you're ever going to tell another story, it's got to begin. And even if it's not set until 2,000 years later.
Now we're free.
Man, he was really good in America. He's really coming along.
Is he doing well?
Yes. Going from job to job, I mean, he got...
Very solid.
He got a nomination for In America. Mm-hmm. And I know that would please him so deeply because when he did that Armistead movie, he got to go on the Academy Awards and just read out something,
Mm-hmm.
And he said everybody at home in Benin was like over the moon with that. He said, but when you mentioned my name, when you won, that was the confirmation for me at home that it was real. So then getting his own nomination, I can't imagine what that would have done for him.
The funny thing is, at the end of when you come at the end of a road on any film, have you any idea what you've been doing overall or not?
On
anything.
Oh, yeah, me.
You have a sense of what may have happened.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And I always allow for the fact that there's going to be things that I didn't know, but I've always got a reasonable idea when I leave the set if we've achieved something or not. I mean, when a bloke came up to me the day I was actually leaving, I was just packing up my trailer. And he'd been a bloke that we'd hired specifically to work with me, but he'd let me down really early on in Morocco. And so I hadn't actually been working with him, but I'd let him keep his gig, And he actually came up to me and he said, gee whiz, what a wasted opportunity.
For him?
For us.
Really?
That we had the money and the opportunity with the idea. And
he had no idea what was going on.
No idea. No. And I said to him then, mate, on a feature film, unless you spend every day 3 foot from the camera, you won't know what the fuck's going on.
No. It's both fair and unfair to say, because unless you are literally around the camera, you don't really know what's going on. The factor that it takes so long, there's a boredom factor sets in, so people peripheralize on the edge. And I'm not talking about the people who actually are giving you wardrobe and are getting involved in makeup and all that kind of thing. But there's a lot of people standing around who get bored, And so you've got to forgive them for that. But at the end of it, I always have a good sense of where I am. I have a pretty good sense of where I am almost within 2 weeks off this one. I knew this is going to be pretty good.
Well, I knew when I finished that I'd given you everything that I could, and I hadn't held back anything, and there wasn't any idea which we hadn't, at the very least, explored and either used or thrown out. And I always believed right from the beginning of it that it was the right time to do this type of story. That's why I responded to it. I mean, that was the 3 sentences. It's 185 AD. You're a Roman general. You're going to be directed by Ridley Scott. But, you leave the set having done what you can do. But there was just, to answer that question of yours fully, there was just never any way in the world I could have assumed how cool this was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I'd done what I could do type of thing, but, See, you think about it, all the different, comings and goings and people flying in and, arguments and what have you and bits and pieces. All it served to do was focus everybody on what we needed to do, which is, something special, quite frankly.
Sure.
But, there's a whole lot of things that I said probably in the beginning of promoting this movie, which I really wish I could take back, just not because they weren't accurate or correct. It's just that they really don't need saying once the battle's over,
The battle, it's always in every film there's a battle. And
Yeah.
I think one has to.
Joy and torture. It's
Exactly.
always a mixture of joy and torture.
Yeah, you better enjoy both.
Mm.
Yeah. There you go, mate.
There you go.
Mm.
Done deal. Now, folks, Gladiator 2.
Right, we have to
The
do another one.
revival. Or subtitle, Max wakes up.
Right.